Good evening, and I'd like to begin our meeting with non-agenda public comments. And this evening we have Citizen, Mary Ann Lucky, Maria Rabe Paul, Rafa Hasu, Elizabeth, I don't have a last name for Elizabeth, and Charles Alexander, Wayne Walker, Giovanna Dick, Sabrina, Helen, I don't see the, Sabrina H. And you can come in any order that you choose. You'll have 2 minutes each. Please state your name when you come to the speaker, and we can begin non-agenda public comment.
Did you call up people for public comment? Yes? You have to pardon me, I have a hearing loss, so I didn't hear it. I want to speak to the continuing student fees that kids are having to pay. Imagine my surprise when I found this book in a time when school districts actually provided pencils and paper and other necessities for children when they're learning. Here it is, San Diego City Schools Composition Book. And somewhere along the way, it was decided that the law could be twisted around so that little kids are denied the same opportunities that their wealthier classmates can afford. For example, field trips are now being listed as optional, and therefore we can make you pay for them. That's not true. Here's a report from Mr. Koba stating that school-sponsored field trips are to be ceased, and it is the policy of the school district that all children will be able to go on the field trip whether they pay or not. The reason is it's a public school, and no child has to go tell his teacher, my mom doesn't have any money and I want to go. But that's what's happening in this school district. And I have to keep filing complaint after complaint after complaint. So $5 for ID cards right now at Lincoln. And the legal office said to me, Lincoln doesn't require student ID cards. That's what I was told by the legal office. And then I read the handbook, talked to the principal, and yes, indeed, it is mandatory to have an ID card. And there's a machine there, costs 25 cents. 25 cents to make that ID card, and kids are paying $5. $5. One of the poorest schools in this district, and they're being jammed for $5. Claremont High School, same way. Scripps Ranch, same way. Let's slam those kids for every buck we can get out of them. 25 cents for an ID card, and they're paying $5. Something's wrong in a system like that. Somebody's not putting the kids first. And it's very, very upsetting. When I see the waste in this school district, a school district that's telling us, we don't have enough money. Are you kidding me? There is so much money that taxpayers are pouring into this school district, and it's coming out the other end just as fast. Reclassifications, lawsuits, $40,000 for an investigation for Marnie Foster, admin leave on pay, VEBA, $1 million for VEBA, $1 million for VEBA. How many field trips would that $1 million pay for our kids? Zero budget. No accounting for the money they're spending, the overtime that's being run up, the problems that are being handled. Just dump them into the Ed Center. Every inept employee that gets themselves in trouble for being drunk on the job, having a stolen gun in their car, whatever, let's send them up to the Ed Center. We're spending a lot of money in this school district, and it's not on the priority, which should be the children.
Thank you for your comments. Can I have the next speaker, please?
My name is Wayne Walker. Thank you, Superintendent Martin and school board trustees for hearing me tonight. I want to introduce myself. I'm Wayne Walker at 7770 Belden Street in San Diego. I'm a retired teacher of 22 years. I worked for the Huntington Beach City School District. I have been a member of PFLAG, Parents, Family, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, for a number of years. During my membership, I have also been a board member. I was also an active member of the Safe Schools Task Force from 2011 to 2014. I'm very pleased to hear that the Office of Youth Advocacy has created a teacher resource job that is specifically designed for offering educator trainings around curriculum and providing safe, inclusive, affirming school environments for students in the San Diego Unified. The reason I am here tonight is that I want to highlight something that may not be necessarily be spoken, but it needs to be stated for public record. I am hopeful that the people that comprise the eventual interview panel for this position would be focused on choosing the person who is most qualified for this position. In other words, this person should be chosen based on experiences and skill sets that he or she would bring to the position. I am concerned that some people assume that only a person who is coming from the LGBT community should actually fill the role of the position. I am here tonight to reassure you, as I am a gay man, I want to see the panel select a man or woman for this position based on the best person regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity and expression. The educators being trained, and especially the students themselves, will be the ones that will reap the benefits of the person who is the best qualified for this job. We need to simply hire the best person for the job, period. Please make sure that the hiring panel responsible for choosing this person hears this message loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Maria. I'm working for Trace more than 6 years ago. The reason I am here is because I feel I have been discriminated against, and that happened last year. I started applying for positions. I heard the school district hire people as short-term staffing permit. I have all the requirements. After that, I heard that another person was hired from outside of the school district. This year, I applied again several times because I have all the requirements for internship. My grades are excellent. I have a good experience, a good reference. I can create a good learning environment for the students. And I know that my interview, because my accent wasn't very good, but it doesn't mean that I cannot teach. My surprise was that this teacher that was hired last year with the same level than me, that is studying with me in National University, is working with an internship program, and I am not. And I don't feel that I have given the same employment opportunities that she has. She told me that was called for an interview, and she was an interview. When I was called for an interview, I was interviewed for 2 people. So I don't know the difference, but this is I don't have much more to say. Thank you. I have copies here with all the emails I was sent to Jonathan Tong. I didn't receive any answer from him. Suddenly, I contacted to Sabrina because I am very frustrated with this situation. Sabrina had a meeting in Human Resources because Jonathan Tom, I called him, I called several times, several people from Human Resources to know what is the reason. And I didn't receive any answer. But because Sabrina told Jonathan Tong and other people, I don't know, Jonathan called me last Monday at 7 p.m. to tell me, I'm sorry, but I don't have any position for you. And surprise, Wednesday, the school district opened again positions for teacher. I am a moderate to severe disabilities, and I know that I can teach my students because I'm working with them for many years. But I didn't have that opportunity. I feel very frustrated, and I just came here to see if something for me. Thank you.
Can you state your name again? I don't know if you did, but,
My name is Maria Ravepol.
okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm Sabrina H. Hanlon, and I am the para-president, and she is a para-educator. And typically when she contacted me, I told her I don't really know a lot about the teaching program and how it works with the district, but that I know that we've been talking at the 2020 and everything else about having diversified teachers of different backgrounds. I worked with Maria in Trace. I know what an excellent employee she is. I know how well she works with students. I was very frustrated to hear what she's been going through. I know, Cindy, you know I'm an advocate about education, educating my paraeducators. I emphasize trying to have them build themselves up because we have such a limited opportunity in our classifications. And the fact that she's gone through the process, gotten her degree, I met her before she had her bachelor's degree. She's worked her way through school while working 30 hours a week in special ed. I'm really appalled at the lack of contact anyone has given her. She has these emails. She's got one for you, Cindy, to show where no one's responded to her. And that was, to me, just such disrespect, you know, especially, I mean, to anyone, but to a current employee. And I did. I brought it up at our CAC meeting last week, and of course that evening, Jonathan called her with we don't have anything for you. But it was Jonathan and Julie Mordechal, both of them, no response. Like, you don't matter, we don't have time for you. And that's very disrespectful. It's very discouraging. I'd hate to see her go. She has opportunities with County Office of Ed, with National City. I'd hate to see her go somewhere else. We need good teachers in our district. And for our district to push away good teachers because they don't have the time to be bothered with her, or they're having an issue because her English language isn't, you know, perfected. I'll tell you, her written English is better than mine. She sent me some emails from her, and her written English is much better than me. So I'm really I'm here to support her and to say I'm disappointed with the direction that things are going with this intern program, and perhaps maybe, I'm not even sure why Julie Mordechal would be an interviewee of teachers. That kind of confused me. But anyway, I'm just here to support her and let you know she is worthwhile. She is definitely something that, as an employee and out there working with teachers, I would want her to be my teacher if I was an SET, because she knows what she's doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And normally I would say this at the end when everyone has made their comments, but just let me just say at this time that we're very appreciative of the comments that you make, that we take them seriously, and the superintendent will be following up on that, you know, just for the record.
Just real quick, one quick question. Did you receive a letter saying thank you for applying, but unfortunately, you know, we filled the position with somebody else? But no response at the end. And I've heard this from two other people.
I just wanted to you know, remind us all that this is public comment.
I
so
understand. Right, I understand.
Okay.
But I've heard this from two other people also that have applied with the school district. They went in for an interview and they've never heard anything back, and it's been months. And just making sure that Superintendent Martin, if the HR department could at least send out some communication saying thank you for applying with the district. Unfortunately, it's not a good fit at this time. We'll keep your stuff on file. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
So again, we thank you for your comments. They help us to improve the quality of education for all students, so we very much appreciate it. And we will be directing all comments to the superintendent, who will follow up on them. And typically we don't engage during public comment, because there's public comment on non-agenda items. So is the reason why I just really want to stress that the comments are very important and what the process is for the follow-up. So go ahead and state your name and we'll continue. Thank you.
My name is Giovanna, and good afternoon to all of you. When I was in middle school, I struggled with being in big groups of people, and with all my peers talking and socializing around me, I noticed that I had a really hard time focusing on schoolwork. So I decided to attend Aldeo Charter School. And when I realized a quieter and smaller classroom would make it easier for me to pay attention in school, at Aldeo I definitely have become the student I always wanted to be. There I can learn something in my own way and get support from motivated and inspiring teachers. Now I get A's and B's and I'm excited to be graduating on time in the spring. My teachers at Aldeo are helping me with all aspects of college application process. I'm applying to a lot of UC schools and state schools. I know I'm a good student and can focus on school. Aldeo Charter School taught me that if I make a goal, I can achieve it. Without Aldeo, I wouldn't be doing as well academically or even have the opportunity to apply to UCs. So with your guys' support over the years, Aldeo Charter School has been able to help students like me that have a hard time being successful at traditional school. So thank you for supporting this innovative public education option for the past 14 years and the opportunity for speaking today.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Raaf Hasu. I'm from Stanley Middle School. So I talked to a lot of the students about who have bad grades, and all of them said the same thing: it's homework. They said that whenever they get homework, they get stressed out, and that makes them stay up all night. And then when there's a test, they can't focus, they can't study, and then and that lowers their grades, and then that gives them like straight Fs. Some of them even get Ds. And so I made a petition too, and then like 313 people said that without homework, we would be able to get straight A's. I talked to students who got straight A's, and I told them, how do you do it? They said that they'd even get better grades, even though they're still straight A's. They said it'll be way better if we didn't have homework. They said it'd be easier. Life at school would be less complicated. And I agree with that, because homework was invented by a man, I really don't exactly know his name, but I know that he invented it as a punishment for students. And with our school getting homework, that's like punishing us, because you guys are still following his steps. I think that my school shouldn't get homework. In fact, I think other schools shouldn't either. I just think that if homework were a prescription drug, the FDA would long ago have demanded a recall. I mean, plus some students, like they need to do their homework online, and not everyone has internet. And so they can't even do it at all, and then that's still like getting them F. They tell the teacher, hey, I don't have internet, she's not going to do anything about it. She's not going to go and then she's going to say, I'm going to pay your bills. Instead, they don't get good grades, they start to fail, they start to flunk every class. And what if a student needs help with their homework and there's not tutoring on that day? What are they supposed to do? Ask their parents? I mean, what do their parents have work? I mean, yes, parents could help you sometimes, but a lot of times your parents have work, they're busy, and that they can't help you. We Stanley Middle School students, we can't get homework anymore. We need no homework. We need to be able to just let it go and then start getting better grades. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Charles Alexander, and I'm just here today to basically address the board and the body here today on respects of somebody that we put in that seat, Ms. Foster. We voted for her in the 4th and the 8th district. We appreciate you, and I just want the public to know that we didn't just stand back and let those attacks take place on you. There was a press conference in front of Channel 10 with the other news stations, but because of one of our community leaders, Pastor Shane, he decided to put the press conference for the Otay Ranch football team, and did the press conference. And instead, because of that, and because his choice without our knowledge of it, he's in some trouble. But I just want you to know that we're not taking this lightly, and it hurts to sit back and see a news station or anybody attack one of our leaders that's been doing an outstanding job. I don't even remember, I don't even know who the last president was. And I only know Marnay Foster because she's on the front line. My name is Charles Alexander. I'm on a compassion project. When there's a killing in San Diego, our phone calls is the first ones to ring. We're the ones out there at 3 o'clock in the morning dealing with that family. I work with Porter Elementary, the only school in San Diego with a population that's out of this with court-ordered students there, that have 70% of the students there that got one parent or both parents that has been incarcerated. I live in a community where Gompers is the only school in San Diego that start from the 7th and at the 12th without a basketball, football, or scholarship baseball team. The only community that has 2 cemeteries, Mount Hope and Dennis and Holy Cross. Only community that suffers the loss of 117 young black men. And for them, that community to sit back and hear a leader that's been doing something for that community attacked, nah. We support you. Black Men United supports you. All our communities in the 4th, in the 8th, and the 9th district throughout San Diego support you. And whatever you need from us, we're here. And the only reason I came today is because Channel 10 was doing a story on Imperial, and I didn't want them to feel as though they was comfortable about doing a story without being confronted about attacking our leaders. So that may come up on the news station, and I didn't want nobody here to think that Marnay Foster done influence some people to go out and do that, because she's know nothing about any of this. So I just wanted to make that clear to the board that we support our president. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I think that concludes non-agenda public comments. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And we're also going to have UC High School present the colors, the color guard from UC High School. Thank you very much. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Every color. Right turn. Out.
Okay, you may be seated. And thank you once again to UC Color Guard. So this completes non-agenda public comment, and we are going to transition with our agenda. But I would first like to say that if you're interested in speaking on an item, that there are speaker slips at both exits, and you need to complete that prior to the item for which you plan to speak comes up. And per board bylaws, public testimony on agenda items is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes, 10 minutes per opposing viewpoint, and that we encourage all to focus on issues and not individuals. So again, a non-agenda public testimony was heard at 5:05, and we are going to now adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion and a second? I'm sorry. We have, I'm so shocked because we've had 3 in a row. But today we have, and I'm really excited to mention that we have a wonderful presentation planned for you by Spreckles Elementary School and the Spreckles Elementary School chorus, I understand. And I would like to introduce the principal, Michael Kazari, and Michelle Kazari, and Steve Sibley, who is the choir teacher, I understand. Would you like to come forward and kind of introduce the presentation? Right, yes. Yes, you can use that. Yes. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We have a lot of amazing parents in the audience. I just want to let you know that Spreckles has arrived. We've literally arrived here for the board meeting, but we have really arrived this year in a lot of respects. We're an amazing school with a lot of amazing things going on. We have our 4th and 5th grade chorus here today, and they are going to be singing songs in both English and Spanish, highlighting our Spanish program. Mr. Sibley, standing over here, is our music preparatory teacher, and he did a fabulous job, and I believe you will be as blown away by these student voices as we are. So please enjoy.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Speckles Chorus. Beautiful. Okay, here we go, honey. We're going out this way. You'll run through. You guys, that was lovely. Very nice. Very nice. Just lovely, guys. Beautiful. Well done. Well done.
That was outstanding, Spreckles. Outstanding.
Great job, Mr. Sidley. Awesome. Thank you. It's getting there. Thanks. It's just so pretty. Thank you. You never know what they're doing.
That was a great job. They sounded really good.
They did.
That was awesome.
We're waiting on Kevin. Now that's what we've been missing in the last few board meetings. That's the way you start off a board meeting. How could we have ever done without that? That was fabulous, yes. Okay. So let's try this again, now that we've started this meeting off right.
I'll move the agenda. Second.
All right, can we please vote? Are there any reportable actions? General Counsel Donovan?
There are not, thank you.
Okay. Administrative assignments, Superintendent?
Thank you, President Foster. I have 2 management appointments, both interim vice principals, one at Madison High School, interim vice principal Patricia Meredith, and interim vice principal at Longfellow Spanish Immersion, Josie Ramirez.
And then we're going to move right into superintendent information reports.
Thank you, President Foster. Thank you. So first of all, recently, last week, we had our State of the District address, and we focused on closing the achievement gap with high expectations for all. And you can find out more information about our State of the District report. We put it on our district website and our news center, and President Foster and I highlighted the accomplishments in the past year and looking forward going into the 15-16 school year, our LCAP goals, our 6 goals in the LCAP, and specific goals that we have coming forward in the year ahead. So preview that. There's some pictures, and I think one of the highlights was the jazz band from SCPA kicking off the evening quite well. And then we had, last week also, we hosted a statewide conference call that was focused on adequacy of funding, looking at public education and investing in California's, public education funding, investing in California's future. And we made commitments in San Diego Unified about what it's going to take to close the achievement gap through robust funding in each of our classrooms. And this statewide conference call was, we had over 100, almost 100 participants across the state. President Foster and Vice President Evans and our CFO, Ms. Selkeld, hosted the call, and we had other superintendents, business CBOs and CFOs, and school board members from across the state as we launched a conversation that focused on how California can prepare virtually all of its students to succeed in school and the workplace when we have targeted, clear, specific strategies. We know that academic rigor, creative entrepreneurship in our classrooms and our programs, we know what's needed to solve the looming crises in California. Climate change, competing in a global economy, and sustaining our way of life is going to take investment in public education. And so San Diego Unified is leading a statewide conversation around what it takes to provide robust funding across the diverse sectors in our state. So the call was launched, and I want to invite the community to continuing the conversation on November 4th, where we will be focusing here at the Ed Center. How do we take the successful strategies that we see currently in San Diego Unified, how do we take those strategies to scale? Because when we see programs, whether it's our preschool programs, our early childhood education, parent centers that are successful in some of our schools, but not all of our schools, our commitment to after-school support programs, our intervention programs. We have very clear examples of what's working in our district, but we want to be able to take those to scale. So on November 4th, we will be featuring some of the programs in our district and inviting the whole community to come out and look at what it would take to properly fund and expand what's working in our district. And we're inviting the entire city of San Diego and the state actually to engage in that conversation, so the public's well aware of the education funding in our state, the fact that we are 46th in the nation in per pupil funding, and our commitment in our Constitution to be in the top 10 is not where we currently are, but we really want to paint the picture of what happens when we properly invest and when we use our local conversation. This started with a year ago being asked what would it take to close the achievement gap, and we call it an opportunity gap, and it's up to our schools to provide the proper opportunities. We have programs for English learners that we know are working, and we want to be able to take to scale, and programs for our early learners, and each one of these programs that work, we want to be able to invest further in. So we invite the whole community out on November 4th here, and it's a series of town hall meetings that will begin in November, and then we'll have another one in January and another one later in the spring, so featuring that. And then we had a dedication of a new building, the Academy of Business at Claremont High School. This was connected to our LCAP Goal 4, positive school environments, and we see pictured here the principal of the school and the student leaders in the Academy of Business. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend each of the board members to go check this out, because the Academy of Business, the classroom has a stock exchange. Students are given money to invest. They have their portfolios, and the Academy approach that is happening at that school right now, and the different pathways and the career and the business sectors are quite inspiring, and the kids are the best advocates of why this program is so important to them. And I got to have Jesus come over and join me when we were having the ribbon cutting ceremony and take a tour. Well, you knew all about it already, because it's your school, but the official ribbon cutting of the new building happened earlier this week. And yesterday I participated in a countywide, it's actually a difficult forum. It was Gangs and Domestically Trafficked Survivors study, was released by a joint research project between Point Loma Nazarene University and the University of San Diego, and the press conference was specifically focused on sex trafficking here in San Diego. And I was joined by County Supervisor Diane Jacobs, Sheriff Bill Gore, and District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, along with Chief Littlejohn, Summer Steffen, who works with the city. And what this study is revealing is the degree and the depth of sex trafficking in San Diego and how our students are being victimized. And it's the largest study that we've seen to actually have real data. I have anecdotal evidence of it in my 10 years of working in City Heights. And what we have now is specific data so we can work on further legislation and further legislative action and more resources that are needed to stop this, the very frightening statistics when we worked with the results of the study to see that law enforcement human trafficking task force came together and other leaders about proven strategies, and then what is our district approach to identify. We have a three-tiered approach to identify and to help intervene what's happening. So that press conference happened yesterday, and there was further coverage about that. And then last evening, we participated with the California Endowment in a screening of a movie called Paper Tigers, and this film was followed by a conversation with students from Crawford High School in the teen court, and we were able to, the movie is focused on an alternative high school up in Washington, and students there, the school has instituted restorative practices and trauma-informed care, and they actually started the work at the school in Washington based on a study here in San Diego around students that have been exposed to trauma at young age, what that does to the brain. And when you put in place restorative practices and trauma-informed care, you can significantly change outcomes for students who have been traumatized by very significant risk factors that we can identify early and do something about. So this documentary brought to light what happened at a school that became a trauma-informed school, an alternative high school where kids came from very significant challenge and struggle, and they each told their individual story. They were given cameras to document their life, and school staff coming around that. So I was grateful to we had a huge showing from San Diego Unified, both district office staff, teachers attended, our president of our teachers union was also there, and the panel at the end, students got up to speak about specifically at Crawford High School what we're doing, and we had Cherokee Point present with trauma, sort of ground zero for trauma-informed care. We also had Joe Austin from Hoover High School, and where we have our practices currently through our investment, through the support of the California Endowment and leadership from Student Services, we're able to continue to invest in those programs and expand on them. What's been working at Crawford and Hoover and Cherokee Point as shining examples in this movie highlighted another school. Just waiting for them to make the documentary over what we're doing here, because it very much resonated, and it was great to hear student voices on the panel last evening. Thank you.
Well, we're going to transition into board reports and board comments. I would just like to say that I'm really encouraged by what San Diego is talking about in concert with San Diego Unified School District, because when we talk about trauma-informed schools and restorative practices, and you mentioned Superintendent Martin about what that does to the brain, and there's been conversation about a type of brain damage that is done, and we talk about post-traumatic stress that students have experienced because of some life experiences, but it's really present stress. There's nothing post about it. So I'm really encouraged to hear the conversation that's happening citywide in collaboration with us. And so, I'm really encouraged about that. And then, of course, another conversation that folks want to often sweep under the rug is the human sex trafficking, and that is a very real problem, not only in the state of California, but San Diego is a hub. And so there is a lot that we can do about that. And I'm really encouraged by what our leadership is already doing. But it's about really informing and having a conversation that sometimes people don't feel comfortable with having, but it's saving lives. So I look forward to more conversations about what we can do, what parents need to know, and what students need to know right now in our clusters. And it's not just what one might think is a District E, or if you look at some socioeconomic data, this is a city-wide and is happening all through San Diego's with different strategies in terms of the internet and cell phones and all types of things. So I'm really encouraged by the conversation again that is happening, and I look forward to more of that in our clusters and arming our students and parents with information. Having said that, who would like to speak for their board report?
Sure. Continuing with that discussion, Superintendent Martin shared a story with me about an event that happened last week that I wanted to kind of roll off of, and that was when she went to a meeting. She happened to sit down by the president of the California School Board, Michael Kurtz. And when Cindy introduced herself, she said, "Well, I've heard so much about you and San Diego Unified, and you know what? You really need to tell your story because you're doing lots of great things." And so we do need to tell our story, and I think you made that same point at the State of the District. We need to tell our story. If we don't tell our story, then other people will. Oh, and so how I want to play off of that, I visited Perkins Elementary School in the San Diego cluster, and they're teaching Russian, and they do exchange trips with Vladivostok and annually with teachers and students. So we're telling our story internationally, which is really great. And then we had the visit from the Undersecretary of Agriculture, Kevin Concannon, who came to Hancock Elementary School to share with us a celebration of making California food, going to California schools, and our food to cafeteria. And he acknowledged that San Diego Unified is on the cutting edge. We are really out there front in terms of food services. A program that we have is excellent and will be emulated across the nation. So. And another example is working with Justice Judith McConnell and with our Superior Court Justice and our attorneys and judges throughout the state of California. And at the California Convention for the California School Board Association, our district, administrators, teachers, and students will be presenting, telling our story about what it is that we're doing to make civics education happen within our district, and people want to hear our story. I met with the League of Women Voters, and they wanted to hear what are we doing with early childhood education. What is our program for transitional kindergarten, and what are we doing with our pilot program. So a lot of people are very interested in what we're doing, and we are getting out there. Another one, I was at Cal State University, San Marcos, where our instructional leaders, our experts in the district, were leading presentations on how the new science standards are rolling out. So we do have a great story to tell, and we're in the process of doing that, and I will do that wherever I go. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just very quickly, I just wanted to first of all thank President Foster and Superintendent Martin for the great job that you did at the State of the District address. And I also want to thank the two of you and Vice President Evans for hosting this town hall coming up next Wednesday night, November 4th. And I would really encourage everybody to come to this town hall. This is a conversation that we've been having really for too long. here in San Diego Unified and throughout California, and it's about how if we simply invested to the level that we've seen in several other states, the national average, and certainly if we invested at the level that's required in our state constitution to be one of the top 10 states in the country, we would close the opportunity gap. Some people talk about the achievement gap. We would close it. And we would close it because we actually know the strategies and have a long track record in closing that gap with programs and strategies that work for some students, but we don't have the resources to take those efforts to scale. And when we do, as Superintendent Martin talked about, we'll close the opportunity gap. And the reason that's important is because if you think about the challenges that face future generations of Californians, if we actually do our job as a current generation of Californians and put the resources into these young people that they deserve, they're going to confront those challenges, and they're going to do so successfully, and they're going to take the state where it needs to go. And we know that every time California has led the way in development of sustainable technology and development of information technology and so many things that we take pride in our arts and entertainment leadership in California, it's all come from a prior investment that prior generations made in public education. And so now is our opportunity to step up and do this the right way, and I think we're going to have a compelling picture of what's possible for our state if we take our programs to scale that we know work. So that's, again, Wednesday, November 4th at 6:30 here in the Ed Center. I know President Foster will welcome us, and very much looking forward to that.
Thank you, Trustee Barrera. A couple of things in the last week or so. On Saturday, October 17th, I was honored to be a guest speaker at the Brady Campaign annual event. And the Brady Campaign basically is focusing on everything that we can do as a community locally to keep our communities and especially our children safe from the extreme gun violence that's ravaging our country. There have been so many school shootings that we can't keep track anymore. Some days, there's more than one in the same day. And so the question really isn't whether or not that's going to happen to our school where our kids go, but when. And so they have a variety of different kinds of educational programs. One that's very important is the ASK program. And that basically just helps parents to be educated that before you have your child go play at their friend's home, ask the parents if they have a gun in their house. And if they do, is it properly locked and secured? Just asking that question can save lives, because a lot of children die every year from just playing with guns in somebody else's house. There are a variety of other educational programs that are so important at helping people to understand how gun violence is ravaging our country. One of the things that we also have to understand and continue our support in this board and this district is for our programs that we have to keep our kids safe and our school sites safe from possible problems that may arise. And that goes to the fact that we do have lockdowns from time to time. And I know a lot of parents wonder, gosh, why do we do this? Why do we have lockdowns? Because there are real credible threats out there, and we have to err on the side of keeping our kids safe. Second, we need to make sure that we're fully supporting our San Diego school police officers and our San Diego schools resources that they need so that they can prevent and deal with any issues that may arise right away. We need to make sure that we're giving them the resources they need to keep our kids safe. The second thing that occurred last week was I had a meeting with a couple parents around school choice. And this has been an issue that's been coming up a little more lately. The question isn't Do we allow parents to have choices between what schools they send their kids to, or we take away choice? But this meeting that I had last week was about, do we want quality schools in every neighborhood? Absolutely. That's a given. The real question is, do we take away a parent's choice to have their child go to a different school if they want? And the day that we deny them that choice, we're going to see more and more parents pulling their children out of our public district schools and sending them elsewhere, whether it's to charter or private schools. In fact, I had a great conversation with a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years, Randy. And he tried to choice his 2 children into a different school than the one in their neighborhood. They were denied. So he pulled them out of San Diego Unified, and now they're enjoying their 5th year at Francis Parker. And maybe not every parent can do that, but there are a lot of parents that can and do. And so I think as a public school system, I applaud the efforts of previous boards to support, fund, and ensure that we have rich choice opportunities in San Diego Unified for all of our parents and all of our kids. On Wednesday, October 21st, I was honored to receive an award from my superintendent in Sweetwater School District for having perfect attendance. And I want to thank my fellow board trustees for allowing me to continue 100% perfect attendance in my school district and still perform my duties and tasks as a trustee in San Diego Unified. That same day, I attended the LGBTQ+ Community Advisory Committee meeting, where we were thrilled to get an update from Superintendent Cindy Martin and Mr. Moore on the progress that we're making towards implementing changes to make our schools safer. A lot of great things are going on. Program manager position was created. Resource teacher position was posted, so that's 2 full-time positions to support our children. Creating safe learning environments and to comply with California state law regarding the Fair Education Act and other California state laws. However, the one thing that was a little bit surprising to many of the people on the LGBTQ+ CAC group was that even the superintendent herself, she self-assessed and gave the school district an F for bullying reporting procedures. We still have an opportunity to create easier ways to report when somebody's being bullied, when somebody observes somebody else being bullied, and the ability to report that on the school district website is still not there yet. In fact, on KPBS, somebody in the community in San Diego was very concerned about the perception that there is some staff dragging their feet at implementing an easier way or a way, some way at all, to report when there's bullying going on in our school system. So I look forward to an update on that implementation. On Thursday, October 22nd, I attended with Trustee John Evans and President Marnie Foster the 24th annual Stand Now for Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is under assault, and I think there's a really serious misunderstanding with a lot of people in the community that a vast majority of Planned Parenthood services are free breast cancer screenings for people that can't, for women that can't afford it, and a wide variety of other free women's health care services for women in our community that can't otherwise afford health care and health services. So that's a very, very important part. And finally, on Saturday, October 24th, I was thrilled to host a fundraiser at my home to benefit the House of the Philippines with a lot of community members in San Diego and throughout the county. That's my board report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Beiser. And, on non-agenda public comment, I often say that the comments help us to improve the quality of education for all students, and that's a fact, and that we will forward those comments to the superintendent. You better believe that when board members give their reports, those comments are directed to the superintendent, and she'll be following up. I say that because there were some concerns that were also raised in Trustee Beiser's trustee board report. So I'm sure those will be followed up with.
Yeah, I just need to intercede. I have no doubt that Superintendent Cindy Martin is all over implementation on the bullying reporting ability.
Yes.
And making sure that that's right there on the district website, that if a student's being bullied in a school, that they can go to the website, they can click, and then there's a process for that report to be addressed immediately. I have no doubt that board directive is being worked on as we speak.
Thank you, and I wanted to just highlight the importance and how we are, and we will continue to follow up with that, because bullying is serious. Students can lose their lives, in terms of the impacts of that. And since you brought that up, I think I also want to just throw out there something that's been heavy on my mind, which is I also believe that there needs to be a conversation just about peace and kindness and how to demonstrate that. And we say random acts of kindness, but I think that that is equally important to mention as opposed to anti. And I just think it's more powerful. So I'm just throwing that out there for whatever that's worth. And so I'm really interested in hearing from our student leaders that are on this board. So I would ask that Jesus Martinez and Claire Andrews, that you share with us what's happening academically, socially, however you would like to weigh in on comments that you've heard to this point in our presentation. I'm passing it off to you, Jesus.
All right, thank you, President Foster. So hello, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jesus Martinez. I'm the ASU president at Claremont High School, and I'm also the executive district council president over the San Diego Unified School District. I am proud to announce that on October 22nd, we had our dedication ceremony for our Academy of Business building, but it's not just for the Academy of Business. It was really a nod towards our linked learning academies, which include Academy of Business, or AOB, Information Technology, School of Engineering, and Medical and Health Sciences. And I was very pleased to see Superintendent Martin there and Dr. Evans, as well as several community dignitaries. We are proud to have a direct partnership with the Moxie Foundation and with Connect Ed to make sure that our students are receiving the highest quality education possible. This program only affects our 9th and 10th graders this year, but starting next year, every single student on campus will be a part of an academy, making sure that they have a clear career pathway, or at least an option of how to get them to where they want to go in life. Speaking of kindness, as many of you know, October is Anti-Bullying Awareness Month, and it was at the last board meeting also declared LGBTQIA History Month. So we're really excited to incorporate these two great causes together. And at Claremont High School, we are currently having our Kindness Week, and we have dedicated it to Mr. Dan Knight, who was a history teacher on our campus who passed away last year. From personal experience, I can say he was my AP United States history teacher, and that his spirit of kindness lives on in all of our hearts. So we have named it Dan Knight Kindness Week. Today was actually our major kindness day, just focused around his spirit and remembering great life of service to his community. We are doing an anti-bullying assembly tomorrow, and we really wanted it to be student-led, so that's exactly what it's going to look like. We're incorporating a skit on not just bullying, but the things that can come along with bullying, including depression, self-harm, and even suicide attempts. We are also offering college readiness workshops after school for the seniors, helping them with personal statements, and personally I can say it's been a great help. Being a student who does a lot of things, it's really great to sit down with the teacher and have them really guide you through the process. We're also focusing a lot on our 9th and 10th grade students, helping them visit more colleges so that they can have a more prepared future. As an ASB, we're participating in a free trial that tracks our student participation. So the way it works is the ASB advisor, or myself as president and my vice president as well, we have the scanner on our phone, and you scan the student's ID barcode, and that gives us a report of statistics on how our school is doing and how much participation we had. And we're trying this out to see if it's a good fit for Claremont High School, and if not, we will come up with another system of tracking participation. Currently, we are planning for renovation on our campus. We have been very blessed to have the opportunity to remodel our school, and we're moving into the phasing plan. So by September of 2016, every classroom is expected to have the same equipment, ensuring that every student has the greatest education possible at Claremont High School. Also, our PTSA and Claremont Foundation, this Friday, October 30th, we are hosting first ever annual Monster Mash. So I invite board members, trustees, audience members to please stop on by. It is a family-friendly event where we will be showing Hotel Transylvania and just having a good time. It's also a great time to come out and get to know our wonderful PTSA and Foundation board members. We are also partnering with local middle schools and elementary schools, and we're calling it the Claremont Community of Schools, sort of a cluster program, making sure that we are providing thoughtful pathways to career opportunities for students, not just in high school, but starting in elementary school, so that we are focused around Vision 2020 and having quality schools in every single neighborhood. Something to add as far as the ASB Executive District Council, we're having our Student Congress November 18th from 3 to 5 p.m. Something that we will be, the agenda items include, first and foremost, lockdown procedure. Seeing as we recently had a lockdown and there was a lot of confusion from many different teachers as to what should be done. Number 2, equitable division of financial assets in athletic teams, pertaining mainly to how money is divided up, whether if it's a team it's solely for men or women, it's a co-ed team if it's an underfunded program.
Title IX.
Exactly. Title IX. So making sure that we are all provided the same opportunities, regardless of whether you're on the tiny field hockey team or
women's lacrosse.
Women's lacrosse, apparently, because yes, they're very underfunded. Another thing we're talking about is our facilities within our schools, and such as the restrooms, library, and how sometimes they are not kept up to date as much as we would like. So we hope to see you all trustees and Superintendent Martin stop by at our Congress meeting. And with that, I will pass it on to Claire.
Hi, I'm Claire Andrews. I am the ASB president at La Jolla High School. I was asked to introduce myself a little bit more. So I play water polo year-round, and I've played for the school's water polo team and swim team for the past 3 years. I'm also an active member of National Charity League, so I volunteer in all sorts of organizations all over San Diego County. I really just enjoy being involved in supporting and bettering our community. So at La Jolla High, college has been kind of the hot topic at our school. We've had several informational college meetings after school for parents, and every Tuesday at lunch, all of our counselors meet in the gym and instruct seniors step by step how to finish their applications. And We have daily visits from colleges all over the country. Today we had Notre Dame come, and so you can sign up for whatever schools you're interested in and meet with the college admissions officer who will be reviewing your application. So it's nice, you get to introduce yourself. We also just approved over 80 clubs, ranging from drama to recycling clubs, a very large variety. Also, October has been our anti-bullying month, and our largest focus was last week. That was our kindness week, and our highlight was an anti-bullying video, which was spread on all social media everywhere. So everyone at our school saw it. It was posted on our bulletin, and that was that. We also had our first Tangle in the Tank, which was a cancer awareness fundraiser. So our boys water polo team played our boys football team in a game of water polo, and all the proceeds went to Susan G. Komen. So that was very successful. And we also sold newspapers for the Union Tribune's Kids Day special, so we had a lot of success with that as well. And kind of the big news is our homecoming is next week, so we are busy planning homecoming, and that's everything. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much for your presentations and for your tremendous leadership as well. And we are going to continue with E2, which is our district accountability report, focus on equity and a plan to ensure that each and every student is on track to graduate with LCAP goal number 1 and number 2. And so, Superintendent Martin, did you want to introduce and invite our presenter?
Yes, I do. Thank you, President Foster. This is a monthly update that we established last year. As we implement our LCAP, I'm going to invite Cheryl Hiblin from High School Resource Office to come up with staff to do this presentation. Our monthly update tonight is focused on our A through G, the quality indicator, closing the achievement gap with high expectations for all. And specifically tonight, we're going to have an update on A through G on track class for 2016 and 17, our DNF grades report, the enrollment rates in AP, IB, and college career. And those are just the big highlights. There's a lot more detail to it. And we really appreciate all the work Cheryl and her entire team has done to put this presentation together. Last year you heard the first year's LCAP update on this particular item, and now we get to see where we are in our progress and all of the work that's been done to get us to where we are today. So we've got Cheryl Hiblin. Oh, pass that down to Cheryl.
Good afternoon. Today I'm joined up here with two really amazing people, and I wanted to make sure that I know both of you, or you know Al Love, the Director of College, Career, and Technical Education, but I'm not sure everyone knows who Francesca Del Carmen is, the Program Manager in the Office of Secondary Schools. So she's going to be presenting part of the counseling work tonight, so I wanted to make sure that you had been introduced to them. So tonight I am back after a year to update you on several things. It looks like 3 of our board meetings are in one presentation, but there are fewer slides than my UCA to G presentation last year, which is probably a good thing. Tonight I'll be talking about meaningful graduation, our UCA to G effort, advanced studies, CCTE, and the DNF grades, the status on first-time success in our classes. So I'd like to begin. Last year I talked a little bit about the history of this effort, and I'm going to leave it to this slide. I think there is still some confusion about the fact that this effort for us is really an effort around a meaningful graduation for all, for each and every. And it's not about the fact that we believe that every student in every school needs to go to a university, but it is about the fact that we believe that every student should not be denied the ability to go to a university, and therefore we offer them the course coursework that would allow them, like every other student in the school, to have that opportunity. So a year ago, I came to you and I shared with you that there were several districts involved in an A to G effort in the state, and that we wanted to make sure that the San Diego way was one where we didn't make any categorical presumptions about groups. So we didn't say, well, this isn't for the special education kids or the English learners, but we were going to look at all groups and support them to meeting this goal. We talked a little bit about why this was happening in the state and why this was happening for us, which was the prevention of tracking, whether that was intentional or unintentional, and just the civil rights piece of it, that everyone should have access to a robust and meaningful curriculum. We looked at rates going into CSU and UC, and we saw that they were lower for some of the students in our subgroups, and we were looking at community college and EAP data, frankly, that was showing that our students were not ready going into community college and the university system at the rates with which we would expect. So the significant changes, just as a reminder, so ESL currently now is the only ESL course that counts for graduation. So in the past, ESL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then American Lit was an acceptable combination. Now ESL 5, 6 is the equivalent of English 1, 2, and then the rest of the sequence, 3, 4, American Lit, and Senior English is what everyone completes. The second change was the third year of mathematics, and some schools had already, Kearney was one that had taken out unifying algebra 10 years prior, but for some schools this switch to the third year of math being intermediate algebra or integrated math 3 was a change for them. The requirement that 2 years of a consecutive foreign language would be taken, 1 year of a visual and performing arts, and then I added to the bottom of this, at the same time that these UCA to G things were happening, we were also transitioning to integrated math. And I'd like to say that that my personal opinion is this was a very important switch to make because it's aligned to the next generation science standards and the Common Core. And so while this has been tricky, I think it's been really powerful and amazing that we've moved in that direction. Okay, so this slide has an extra line from last year because we're going to look at the on-track requirements at the start of the fourth year, which is the senior year. So the data I'm going to show you tonight is actually students entering the senior year. They haven't completed any of their senior requirements, so this is the first 3 years of high school. But I'm also going to show you the juniors from this upcoming year to show you the change between 3 different junior classes. So this is really complicated, and what I'm going to leave it at is that you have to have a definition to measure something, but this definition is actually very tight, and it holds us to an accountability level that's very high, which I think is good for us, because if we had put the bar too low, we'd probably hear about it. So an example that I wanted to point out as we're careful when we go into the school site slides is that if you look at my old school, Kearney DMD, it looks like they are 59% on track for graduation. So of course, after talking to Dr. Mike and others, I ran over to Kearney DMD to try and figure out what was going on. And something as simple as 17 students having to retake an English class and 13 students needing to take a foreign language were what pulled down that overall score. So I just want to make sure that when we see some of this, we're not, so alarmed. Every single one of these students is scheduled to be on track to graduate. So, but the overall score may look challenging at 59%. Okay, so this is our on-trackness for the class coming in before they've taken any classes in their senior year. So last year we were at 59% on track with 41% not on track, and so 16% shifted. 16 plus moved into the on track, so it's at 75, and 16 came out of the not on track, so now it is 25. But the interesting thing is what's in that yellow off track, and that's what this next slide is what's going on with the 25%. So we were really interested in this blue portion portion and the yellow portion, because the question became, how would 418 students rolling into the senior class not be enrolled in required courses, and why would 16 of them be out of sequence? So what we found, and the counselors who we're going to introduce you to when we get to that section, they went in and looked at each student in these two particular pieces by hand to find out, are they on track and what's going on with them. Several of them were English learners, special education, students who'd moved out of state, or had come from out of state, who had come from out of country, or who were transfers. And so everyone in there, with the exception of 3 that dropped who aren't in our system anymore, are technically as close to on track as you possibly could be. Now, I'll bet you that if I had had time to go in and look at the 686 that had failed courses, we might find out that they may have failed a credit or 2 and might be on track as well, but we didn't have time to sit and dig into those 686. So in the next slide, I just wanted to show you what this pie would look like if we considered those 431 we looked at, so we would be at 81% on track. And that's without me looking at the individual Fs. So to me, this is good news, considering the fact that our graduation rate last year was 89.6, I believe. So I wanted to make sure that I had shown you that piece, and if we had had more time, we would have looked much deeper into the other students in terms of what having an F really meant. This slide is the seniors, and this is the entering of the senior year. And so what you're seeing is just the overall on-track piece that we saw last year. Some of the things that I would point out is that under the IEP section, this is a 23% raise in on-track. Under the African American section, this is a 24% on-track raise. And under the EL section, it's a 19% raise in on-trackness, which we would expect this to go up because they've taken more coursework and they've been more on track. But overall, we're seeing some growth in areas that we wanted to see moving
Cheryl,
fast.
and on track from when you reported last year?
From when I reported last year.
Yeah.
So last year when we looked at the class of 2016 in their junior year, of course these numbers would raise because we've taken more, but our on-trackness in certain categories, the English learners, the IEPs, and the African Americans had a significant raise in terms of being on track. This particular slide shows that same data by content area, and I'll be honest with you, I thought for sure the mathematics would be the lower one, but it wasn't. And so it looks like English language arts, which shouldn't apparently be surprising to me, because a lot of our English learners, especially our newcomers, some of them are not attempting English 1-2 or ESL 5-6 until the 11th or 12th grade. So in terms of off-trackness, they would be off track. This is the information for that same subset, what it was in 11th grade. So this was what the class of 2016, so if I go back to the previous slide, you can see that's the comparison. So this is 12th grade, and then these were their 11th grade in terms of content areas. This slide I need to stay on for a minute because I believe that this is where the achievement gap closing data is, and I really want to make sure I do this slide justice. So when we were looking at this data, so we wanted the class of 2016, of course, to be doing well for graduation, but we also wanted to see how's the system faring. So is the system changing? Are the achievement gaps, closing? And the good news is that, first of all, I'd just like to point out that the English learners, while it still looks low, it doubled in size from the prior year. So it went from 9% to 18%. So what you're looking at on the green bar are the juniors for the class of 2017. So twice as many are already entering the junior class. And again, while you might say, well, can we get excited about 18? We have to build momentum, and we're building it. That move was 9. If you look at the African American, though, this took an 11, the African American grew 11%, which was the highest growth of all subgroups with this change. And what I wanted to point out is that where the gap lives is the white subgroup is the subgroup that comparisons are made to when you look at achievement gaps. They grew +2. African Americans grew up plus 11, English learners grew up plus 8, plus 9, redesignated grew at plus 8, so there was bigger growth, and you could say, well, there was more to grow, sure, but there was faster growth in those subgroups as compared to the white subgroup. And so in my estimation, this is a very powerful look, and I wrote it on the slide that I have in front of me. This was after 1 year of watching. Imagine what multiple years of watching could produce.
And the reason why you wanted to slow down on this slide of closing the achievement gap is that when we talk about closing the achievement gap, everybody's growing, and you can look at subgroups grow, but if everybody grows at the same rate, you never close it. When you start to see a subgroup grow at a faster rate, when Cheryl just pointed out African American and ELs grew at a faster rate than the other groups, that's how you begin to close the gap. And although we're not saying 18% is the thing to sell it, but you're looking at the acceleration, and you're looking at a year's worth of effort, focus, put the flashlight on the data, and then actually make decisions for students that will increase or speed up closing the achievement gap.
Right, and I think a couple of other things that are of note here with this data is that when the subgroups that have historically just been anemically underserved are increasing at much faster rates, then I think that speaks to, one, that the resources are getting to the people and the children that need it the most at risk are getting, hopefully, more resources. And I think that underscores my point that to get them up even more, those children need even more resources. And then the second thing I think that has to be said is that in a lot of these schools where some of these most at-risk children are, now they can take the A through G classes. They have access to those classes because they're, that's the expectation now. And so where in the past, where in some schools, even if you wanted to take A through G coursework, you couldn't. Right. And now that's there, and I just I look forward to seeing the data in the next 2-3 years. Yeah. Trustee Brewer.
Yeah, no, and just to because sometimes I think we fail to talk about the actual percentage increase. So if we look, for instance, at over those 3 classes, from the class of 2015 to the class of 2017, we see an 11% increase in white students who are on track. We see a 53% increase in Hispanic students who are on track. We see a 56% increase in African American students who are on track. We see a 107% increase in students with IEPs, and we see a 100% increase in English learners. So I think it's important, and maybe what we could do in the future in the presentation of this data is we could kind of show those percentage increases over time. That's really
instead of percentage points, but the actual
it's a percent increase, right?
Increase.
So in other words, the Hispanic students,
ratio.
If they start at 34% in the class of 2015 and they're up to 52% in the class of 2017, that's a 53% increase over the course of that 3 years.
Yeah, it's exciting, and even the EL group, if it doubled every year, what are we talking about? 3 years, 4 years before it's level with the peers? I mean, that was impressive to me, and that's without the really big transformative push that we probably need to look at with the teaching in that particular area as well. So the other piece that we added, this isn't necessarily test data or ethnicity data, but we looked at the report that Alliance San Diego sent out and the survey that they did with the community around what does the community think about A to G and what should the community, what does the community want. So I'm not going to read through all of every question, but you can see that some of the things that the community was interested in were smaller class sizes. They were interested in summer school, not only for credit credit recovery, but for additional credit opportunities to help students meet A to G coursework. And I did just want to point out that last summer, not this last summer, but the summer of 2014, 3,511 students took summer school courses, and this summer we were able to serve 4,923, which was an increase of 1,412, and that's not including the online piece that they had. So I think we're in agreement with the community that that's something that we need to do, and we're doing it. The next survey finding was that they, do you think that summer school should be reserved for select students? And this was not one that came up, yes, although I will tell you that we did offer this summer the opportunity for first-time foreign language or world language to be taken. So we are offering opportunities for additional A to G credits, and we believe that there does need to be some type of acceleration collaborated with a site to accelerate some of the English learner opportunities, so we're investigating that. Do you think school districts should offer after-school courses, extended day to help students? And most people felt that this should happen. And currently, 7 high school sites have official after-school programs: Claremont, Henry, Hoover, Lincoln, Madison, Morris, San Diego High, and Sarah. And 2 sites, Scripps Ranch and Mission Bay, are piloting our online options so that kids don't necessarily have to take the online at school. They can take it in a 7th period or outside of the day. Another piece that the community was interested is, do you believe online coursework should be pursued and promoted? And so I wanted to share that last year in 14-15 we had 1,780 dual enrollments and 3,163 credits awarded. This year, just in our fall enrollment, we have 2,987 online enrollments, which is a raise of 1,207 from last year. The next question was QTEL, and I talked with Ola. This was an interesting discussion. They're looking at the relationship between the QTEL strategies and the cost of the program. And so the thing that we all agree on, though, is that English learner support and training needs to be a priority, and whatever we do needs to happen immediately and be supportive of the English learners in our system. Okay. The next.
Before you go on, Cheryl, I just want to highlight the report that you referred to as a report by Alliance San Diego called Career and College Preparedness in the 21st Century, that was released, I believe, last week. It's an analysis of A through G implementation in San Diego Unified School District, and in partnering with us and being really clear around the fact that in 2009 only 4 out of 10 students in San Diego Unified High Schools were completing the A through G curriculum at the point of graduation, and where we started compared to where we are, and for Alliance San Diego to issue this report as an update on where we currently are and showing class of 2016 on-track rates by A through G subject area. They've really drilled down on the fact that they went out to the community and conducted this survey with their, let's see, the research, was a total of 268 surveys were completed by teachers, counselors, administrators, and community members across San Diego Unified. And Cheryl just highlighted the results. And when we met with Alliance San Diego, they were expressing to us there's clear evidence of the work that we've put in place, and that what the community was saying they wanted, there was evidence that we were already putting those recommendations in place. And sometimes when you have support from community groups and friendly support or critical friends, the recommendations that come forth from the community, we look at and say, well, we're not doing that yet. We're on track to do the things that the community has asked for, and that I appreciate the partnership and the continued spotlight and the work of Alliance San Diego. So we referred to this report as well that was just released, and we highlighted it in tonight's presentation.
So the last 2 areas that they pointed out was this, oops, I advanced myself a little bit too far. The last 2 areas that they pointed out were the elementary, the greater effort at elementary, and I would say that many efforts are underway to strengthen Tier 1 instruction across the district, and so I think that certainly is something that we are in alignment with and implementing. And then, do you think accurate assessment and placement in courses is a factor in A to G? And and I would definitely agree that it is definitely a factor, the assessment and the placement in courses. Whether kids are retaking courses or being placed in the courses that they need are definitely a factor in meeting A to G. I would point out that in connection to this, I would say that the AB 1012 that was just passed, the courses without educational content, are going to play quite a role in this particular item because you know, the existence of courses like Assigned Time Home, where kids can go home, or courses that don't have content, or courses that you're placed in because there isn't a course for you to be in, those are now not legal in terms of options for us. So I thought that was an interesting piece that was approved, and it kind of is aligned to that entire placement piece. Clearly, the concept of placing kids back in courses they already passed is not unique to San Diego Unified. It's clearly something happening in the state, and this particular bill certainly has addressed some of that, so that will, in my mind, be very supportive of our work. Okay, so what's next? So we are still working on student-centered master scheduling and Tier 1, so first-time instruction that allows for enrichment, intervention, and first-time success. I would say that, and I wrote on here, we need to build systems of support for teachers and students to ensure access and opportunity for all, and I believe that our casualties live in the walls of tradition that we have not bent. And we're going to see that in the DNF data. We need access to timely interventions in and out of the school day. And I believe that these interventions need to be connected to the core. So we have sometimes interventions that sit outside of the core coursework, but a lot of research that I've been looking at through the English learner piece, they're saying that not only should those interventions be connected to the work that students are doing in the core, but if possible, the teacher who's teaching the core might be the one teaching the intervention, so there's connectivity. And this really comes into play with our English learners, where they might be learning literacy in the English room, but language in the intervention room. And if those two things could be connected, how powerful would the experience in the Tier 1 instruction be if it was being reinforced in the intervention instead of it being a separate entity or not existing at all? So I think that's a really important piece in our master schedules. And the tragedy here, I think, for some in the minds of how this affects the master schedule is that to put more interventions in, it means some things come out. And that's hard because we are accustomed to having options. But our priorities sometimes need to be where we're seeing achievement gaps that need to be closed.
And I mean, just to piggyback on your comment about, you know, getting support and intervention during the day to take things out, you know, that doesn't always have to be the direction. A lot of schools have found phenomenal success with supporting students that are below grade level with after-school interventions, still affording children the opportunity to take an elective like music or something like that that really allows them to enjoy their educational experience. And so, you know, I know the superintendent and the instructional cabinet have visited other schools in San Diego County where they have a very robust after-school academic support program from, you know, for up to 2 hours after school every day, and 4 more hours of support, instruction, intervention on Saturdays, every Saturday, to allow those children the opportunity to pass their courses the first time they take them. So, you know, I look forward to seeing any kind of proposals from the staff and the superintendent on actually implementing these kinds of supports after school and Saturday school, academic-based, to help lift up our EL students and our other children that are at risk. Because, you know, it's not just necessarily a specific subgroup, it's just anybody with a DNF, we need to get them after school every day for 2 hours and every Saturday for 4 hours to get them on track and get them to graduate.
So we actually had a conversation about this in instructional cabinet because schools that are on a 4x4 can naturally intervene without taking anything out of the schedule. Like, they do a lot of intervention within it because they have 8 classes. But on a 6-period system where there's 6 options, especially in the 10th grade where you have your whole day full except for a period. This becomes even more crucial for those schools to have that option. And so when we were examining different ways that the school day could look, I couldn't figure out how to make 10th grade work if a student needed an intervention without putting a 7th period in. The other piece of this too is that the schools that have been able to do what you're describing, maybe not to the exact specificity, they have assets grants. So some of our schools have after-school grants that they can use to do that, but others of our schools don't. And so I do know that some of that has been built into about 6 or 7 of the schools that have the assets grant. But we definitely have to look at a way to intervene in and out of the day.
Right. Two things real quick. This is really important that we're having this conversation. A 4x4 versus a standard 6-period schedule, you have the same instructional minutes in the day. And so all you're really doing between those two, 4x4 versus other alternatives, are you just moving the minutes around within the school day? Because school days aren't any longer in a 4x4. And so I'm not necessarily sure if a 4x4 is the magic answer, the magic bullet for intervention during the school day. Second, your comment with regard to the schools that have after-school support and Saturday school support do that because they have special grant money. That's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of schools around the United States that do have very robust after-school support programs and Saturday academic support programs that are funded out of the general fund, because you either pay now or you pay later. You either have to come up with millions of dollars to give everybody summer school to make up the credits that they failed the first time they took it, or you put the money forward as an institution to support children so that they can pass the first time. So that's part of the calculations that you have to consider. We've got to pay. Do we pay in summer school after they failed it, or do we try to move more of those resources to the school year and then pay for support after school and on Saturday? And I mean, there's a lot of other pieces to that equation. But to just out of hand say, oh, we don't have the grant funding, so we don't have the ability to support intervention programs after school on Saturday, I don't necessarily think that that's the approach that we should take as a district. I think we need to look at, okay, this is what we know can help kids, so let's have conversations about how do we get there with the resources that we do have. So, thank you.
So I would say that on the 4x4 piece, I just want to make sure that you're right that in a day the same amount of minutes occur, but there's more minutes in a content area, so there's 8 options in a year. So for example, if I'm a 9th grader, on a 6-period system I can take English, math, science, PE, and then I have 2 options. But if I'm on a 4x4 and I take English, math, science, PE, I can A/B and extend any of those pieces into longer minutes if I need intervention. And so I'm just saying there are lots of different ways to intervene, whether it's a 7th period or whether it's extra classes within a school in a year.
Right.
But I do know on the 4x4s, there is more opportunity to recover credits within a day, whether you do a straight 4x4 or an AB.
But when you do an AB extension, then you're taking away their opportunity for another class the same, so that's the exact same concern that you'd raised with the 6-period schedule. So if you do an AB extension, so instead of them being able to take another class, elective or something like that, they're still taking 2, they're doubling up on whatever the coursework is. So with the 6-period schedule, instead of 1 period being algebra or integrated 1, and then the 2nd period integrated 1 support, more instructional minutes, and so I really see that if you do an AB on a 4x4, it's the same as double period with a 6-period schedule. And so it's the same number of instructional minutes. There's no magic bullet on a 4x4. That's my opinion and that's my understanding. I've been a part of this conversation and dialogue for 11 years. And there's not a lot of research or data that shows that one actually works more effectively at helping to close the achievement gap than the other. So
I would certainly love to be invited back to show a few schedules on both systems so that I could do a visual on what I'm seeing in the schools in terms of what the bottlenecking is. And a school, I'll give you an example, a school like University City where they have a thriving music program. When you're on a 6-period system, what are you going to do? Tell students that they can't take their music program because they don't have their foreign language and they didn't take their foreign language in middle school because they were in the music program? So there's a bottlenecking that occurs, and when that starts to happen, intervention isn't even possible in a 6-period system because you're fighting between, am I going to take music? Am I going to take foreign language? Did I fail the fitnessgram? So it becomes extremely difficult in those systems, and trying to help them master schedule has been incredibly difficult. I mean, I feel for them because the system is so locked in. So I would love to come back and show some scheduling cohorts and things in both systems so that we could talk about how do we intervene. But the schools are doing this. They have the autonomy to do this in different ways. So some of them are doing assets grants after school. Some of them are doing online intervention. Some of them are on 4x4s and are adding intervention. But I do think that schools that don't have interventions at all and have achievement gaps, we have a huge problem here. Huge problem. And I wouldn't be saying this out loud if those situations didn't exist in our schools. They exist. And it's a hard battle to fight because it's always a trade-off, especially in those 6-period systems. So it's been difficult to try and support them through that on those systems. But I'm certainly not saying we should all be 4x4.
And I would just say that I would really encourage and support coming back and having a larger discussion about the sequencing and the scheduling and the 4x4 and the 6, particularly because there was also another conversation about students getting foreign language credits in 7th and 8th grade and starting, in middle school, when we know that's where we should be starting earlier anyway, that frees up and creates more opportunity in high school. So we need to look at the whole enchilada, so to speak. The whole enchilada. Right. So for that reason, I really support coming back and discussing this. And then I just wanted to ask about the collaboration with the Youth Advocacy Office, particularly around the structural and cultural expectations. With addressing equity, as you discussed on this slide. Is there what has the collaboration been there? Because we know that a large part of this conversation also that we may or may not focus on tonight is that you have to reach them before you can teach them, right? So what does that look like?
So in this particular item about master scheduling, Vernon is part of our instructional cabinet, so our master schedule plans are discussed inside of that inside of that space, and we collaborate around it there. I would say the more involved conversation that I've had with Vernon has been around the ethnic studies piece, which was just a couple of days ago, and my concern about if that course is considered as a mandatory course, what are we going to do in the 6-period systems to ensure that that can happen? Because if that is proposed as mandatory, then we have music and ethnic studies and failing the PE all bottlenecking, especially in the 10th grade. And so we have begun conversations around that, and I'm actually going to try to sequence ethnic studies in to both schedules to see where it could fit, so that people's options aren't lost, because ethnic studies, if it's mandatory, can't sit outside of the school day. Yeah.
What kind of schedule does SCPA have? Do they have a 6-period or 4x4 or 7th period or 8th period?
They have a 4x4, right? They have AB.
You know,
And
SCPA,
Yeah. You have a seven period, seven periods.
I was going to say, I don't think it's a 4x4, but yeah.
Right, okay, so SCPA has a 7-period day to allow, I would imagine, students the opportunity to take more electives, art, dance, things like that, and still take their A through G coursework. Interesting. Could you also, when you come back and you go over A through G, the 4x4
I could do a
and the
7th
6,
period.
do the 7th period? Because maybe the 7th period plan would allow for A through G coursework, support, and electives on the arts or whatever else the children want to take.
I could do all 3.
Okay,
Right.
good, thanks.
But then they have different. They have the AB schedule. Yes or no? You have the 7th period, but the way you arrive at that is the AB schedules on the different days. Correct? Okay,
well, and they have more levels than secondary, so it's very interesting how they're organized. That one is extremely complicated. So so I'm glad that the head counselor that's supporting that school is here, and she can tell you that it's a 7 AB. But I can do that. I can bring back a 7th period, a 4x4, and a 6, and we can put the coursework in it. I'll also do a version for students who are English learners and who have IEPs, who have additional coursework that they need to take inside of their schedule, so that we can look at it from that perspective as well.
Can you go back and elaborate on the district graduation panel?
Oh yes, I made it to opportunities for teachers to have access to each other. So one of the things that I'm recommending is whether a school decides to do a common prep or they do PLC or however they do it, I think this piece is absolutely imperative, because if the only time that teachers have the ability to collaborate with one another is beyond their school day, I remember being in schools and not wanting to stay hours and hours after school. So I'm just considering or putting out there that we need to make sure that our teachers have access to one another one way or the other, whether it's a common prep or not, but that they have that access to one another. And then, Al Love behind me from CCTE, when we were looking at transcripts and master schedules, he coined this term that we have to do something about an acceptable amount of casualties. And every year there seems to be, if we look at our schools, a certain number graduating and a certain number not. And that bucket of students is the group that Al and I were talking about, that it just feels like, well, we're at 90% or we're at this, and there's this acceptable amount of casualties. And what I'm saying up here is that I think that these master schedules and our Tier 1 instruction can go at that group and make sure that group has equity. The number 2 bullet about the establishment of the district graduation panel, if you remember when we brought forward Administrative Procedure 4771, alternative means, one of the things that we put in the back of the procedure was the idea that we wanted to make sure that if any exceptions were made to the graduation requirements, that they were legal exceptions, and we weren't offering the orange drink instead of the orange juice. So we did put together the establishment of the district graduation panel. There are 5 executive directors: the executive director of youth advocacy, Vernon Moore; the executive director of student services, Linda Truesdale; the executive director of special education, Sonia Picos; and the executive director of leadership and learning, Jim Solo; and myself, the 5 instructional executive directors. And we are meeting monthly. They're all scheduled out, so if there are any concerns about meeting 2015 requirements in 2016, because it's the law that if the IEP team decides to make a change, that's the law. But we are asking that those cases, that we look at them and make sure that the IEPs, the 504s, that it reflects that, and that we're keeping track of anybody who is not held to the 2016 requirement. And we did that specifically in the policy to make sure that we were being true to our word.
That goes back to the intent when this was first conceptualized by this board in 2009, that the San Diego way that Cheryl referenced on slide 4, that there are no categorical presumptions about whole groups not being able to meet goals, that we don't just say because you have an IEP or because you have that we don't categorically have people not have access. And so putting this team together to be able to have the right conversation was incredibly important to stay true to our approach and our philosophy.
The next piece that I wanted to share with you is that looking at the English learner data, not only in this segment but in the advanced studies segment, we really thought that we needed to make a huge focus on English learners. And so I was sent an email from the superintendent's office. There was an offer to apply for the Grad Nation Summit, and we applied and we were awarded. And so we are spending the next year looking at English learner instruction, English learner curriculum, and we are working together to collaborate around the development of 4 workshops where we'll collaborate with community, business, teachers, administrators around English learners and transformative education so that they meet all of the meaningful graduation outcomes of all other subgroups. And so we are going to be spending some time with the instructional cabinet focusing on developing a steering committee that will help us develop these 4 workshops with the culmination of a Grad Nation Summit in October of 2016. We also focused on improving A to G and working on A to G. We've been collaborating with special education, the Office of Language Acquisition, Student Services, Teaching and Learning, secondary schools on aligning our instructional, structural, and cultural expectations. So in our last meeting, we sat together and said, what does best practice look for everyone regardless of the office that you're working in? What does curriculum look like? What does intervention look like? And so we were able to see some really clear collaboration lines, and so we've started that conversation.
Trustee Foster's comment a few minutes ago was actually referring to this bullet here about, are you also collaborating with the Office of Youth Advocacy so that the student voice is part of that collaboration? And I think you were commenting on that slide, and you were one slide ahead.
Right, okay.
But that's the instructional cabinet.
For Grad Nation?
No, the collaboration.
Oh, this one, yes.
Yeah, the second bullet on slide 19, Trustee Foster was commenting a few moments ago about when she says reach one, teach one, if you can. Are you collaborating with the Office of Youth Advocacy as well when you're putting together our plans?
Yes. So Grad Nation, the Office of Youth Advocacy will help us develop that plan moving forward. The second bullet, I believe that the reason that youth advocacy wasn't on this particular first meeting was we were looking at curricular areas inside of these pieces. So we were looking specifically at student services in 504s, specifically in teaching and learning at regular ed, specifically in Office of Language Acquisition at EL. Like we were looking at specific instructional programs for specific groups so that we could align the kind of the teaching and learning. But yes, all of us are connected inside of the instructional cabinet work that we do weekly.
And I just would submit that perhaps in these conversations, you might want to include the Office of Youth Advocacy because it covers the wide spectrum, and those conversations are just from where I'm sitting. It just seems to me that they need to be integrated and right. And then you would probably have a perspective and a strategy that you may not have considered. Yeah. That's it.
So on this next bullet, Franny from my office is going to talk a little bit about what the Office of Secondary Schools in terms of the head counselor team has been doing, including the collaboration with multiple departments.
Good evening. I first wanted to take the time to introduce my team. My team's composed of 6 head counselors with diverse backgrounds, so if you guys could please stand up. Each one brings forth a different skill set, from master schedule building to IB programs to atypical schools and college partnerships. The team is composed of Kelly Balzer, Belen Baena, Steve Baker, Kristen Dunphy, Kim George, and Kara Teschner. Our team was fully staffed this summer, beginning the second week of August of 2015. Counselors support secondary schools via high school clusters and their designated feeder middle schools, along with their K-8 schools. The team has embraced, and I'm glad you guys brought up, collaboration with multiple departments. To our focus and our efforts in ensuring student success, we've collaborated with the athletics department, youth advocacy department, OLA office, online learning, counseling and guidance, and student services, among others. So The areas of focus for our team, I want to make sure you guys sat down, for our team have included focus on professional development for secondary school counselors. Up to date, we've provided multiple school counselor PD opportunities that covered a multitude of topics, embracing the admin procedure 4770, which details our graduation requirements, and breaking down additional admin procedures such as 4771. We've covered NC2A with all school counselors, Naviance PD that I believe was spoken at September's board meeting. We've hosted new to secondary PD for new counselors, not just new to counseling, but also new to secondary in general. We've also been able to collaborate with college partnerships, which will be talked and touched base on a little bit later. And we've introduced counselors to the variety of currently available programs at our sites, as well as future plans. In our PDs, we've included components for best practices for our homeless and foster youth and transition programs, and we've had a numerous amount of guests, including Vanessa Peters, our program manager from Youth Advocacy. Our counselors have been collaborating with sites to ensure that equity is reflected in student schedules. One of our counselors hosted a specific PD for our district's 10 intervention counselors. He shared monitoring tools that can be used to support Tier 2 counseling needs for our students. Since our head counselors were hired, they were able to support multiple sites in their master schedules. We have provided NC2A training for our secondary schools, and we're in the process of working with the Director of Athletics to co-host NC2A trainings for athletic directors and administrators. Collaborating with IT has also been crucial to the success of our work. We're in the process of building online monitoring tools for our intervention counselors, and we've been invited to participate in the multiple transcript committees. We have collaborated with the online learning department, and we're looking forward to collaborating with a multitude of departments. Thank you.
Okay, and then the next piece that we wanted to highlight was the work around the language other than English exam. Within the last 2 days, well, first I'll say in 2013 and 14, we offered 198 LOTE proficiency certificates, and 164 of them were via the LOTE exam. In 2014-15, we offered 296 LOTE proficiency certificates, and 242 of them were via the LOTE assessment. This year, because we opened this up to allowing sites to submit the names of students that they believed were ready to take the LOTE regardless of the grade level, we offered it up between 7th and 12th grade. 1,900 names have been submitted by sites for testing. Over the last 2 days, 154 students have passed the LOTE, and over the last 2 days, 154 students have passed the LOTE in our first 2 days of 4-week testing. Lincoln had 65 students pass, Crawford 22, Hoover 32. Hoover still has about 107 to test, but 32 of them passed this week, and San Diego Sci-Tech had 35. So we have 4 more weeks, and I should point out that the 1,900 submitted includes all 6 of the languages we cover, but there were so many Spanish submissions that the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks are all going to be Spanish LOTE, and then we're going to take care of all the other languages afterwards so that we could use the, and the other thing I have to tell you is the ELSTs have just been incredible in this process and have participated in administering the LOTE exams and have volunteered. That, we asked if any of them would be willing to do it, and several of them. What? It's during the workday. Yeah. So that's quite a big deal. It just shows the diversity and the wonderful way that we have a lot of opportunity in our district if we see language as a strength.
Wow, you're not even halfway through, and you've already met the 2013-14 proficiency certificates. Because you're at something like 154, and you're not even halfway through yet.
Yeah, and so that's awesome. I should probably take an opportunity. This department, the language other than English department, is pretty much 2 people. So Michael McVeigh in the language department, he kind of heads up the entire piece, and then the administrator that you just appointed to Madison, it was working with him in the OLA office to help, Patricia Meredith. So now McVeigh is solo, but we'll help him. And so it's Teresa Laskowski in the OLA office, who's the program manager. The three of them have been instrumental in making this happen. And so I'm here sharing their good news, but really this is theirs. So 1900, I think Michael McVeigh at first went, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Just tell me what boulders to move until the OLA director gets here and we'll get it done."
I wanted to ask one other question. It's a few slides back, and you can answer that at the end if you'd like to, but you mentioned the first time foreign language, those classes being offered during the summer, and that's something that we hadn't done before?
So we offered it.
You offered it this past summer, right? And so in a future meeting, and I don't know if you have the answer now, but I would be interested in where that was offered and which students demographically were able to take advantage of the first time foreign language classes just in the future. And then similarly, I'd like to know who is taking advantage of the online courses that are offered and which classes are being offered, and then what supports are available to ensure that students are successful online. And of course my interest in that is because of whatever barriers may exist in terms of just access to internet, computers at home, and so how does that play into the students that are taking advantage of that when we are talking about the opportunity gap that exists and perhaps using that as a strategy to address that. So, and you don't have to comment on that now unless you have that at the top of your head, but if you could bring that data back, that would be important to me.
Sure. David Vandepol's department, the online learning department, Maureen Cottrell is heading up the online effort, and I'm sure she would be able to tell us, get that data for you. Sure.
Yeah.
With regard to the load, I think that this is phenomenal progress towards A through G graduation requirements and honoring the students that are bilingual, trilingual, and want to thank you for getting the LOTE available in 6 different languages. Other than Spanish, what are the other 5 languages?
Okay.
I'm sorry. If you don't know, then I understand.
No.
Don't worry about it. I didn't mean this to be a pop quiz.
One thing I am is prepared, so hold on. So,
okay, my bad.
So I know Swahili.
Okay.
And Cambodian. And Michael's probably going to absolutely lose it when I don't get the rest of this right. But Vietnamese. Okay. So Arabic, Cambodian, Somali, Spanish, Swahili, and Vietnamese. And I have to tell you, one of these particular LOTEs had to be designed with one of our site district custodians who spoke fluent. I think it's the Swahili. Yeah. And so we are doing an all-call for anyone else who can speak fluent Swahili so that we can administer more tests regularly. But those tests, I can't take credit for them. Michael McVeigh helped write them with fluent speakers. The other great thing about this is if there's a language that we don't offer. They were describing to me that either this year or last year there was a Russian student, and the student, no one in the district could speak fluent Russian, so they called a university, which is option number 6, assessment by a college or university, and so they found a Russian fluent Russian speaker at a university, and they were able to conduct an assessment at the college to clear him for foreign language. So,
nice.
Good. Wow, we are a village.
And so I mean, that's phenomenal, Swahili and those other languages. What other languages do our students speak or come to us with that maybe we could work on? Because I know you've got Arabic, and so we're getting a lot of immigrants from Syria and Iraq and the Middle East, so that's fine.
Chinese and
Japanese.
Is it Cayman? What's the one in the Karen in the Crawford area? Sorry, that one keeps rising up as a need.
Do we have one for Tagalog or Filipino?
No.
You don't have a LOTE for Filipino?
No, but Michael McVeigh tells me that as long as we identified someone who was fluent and could help support the writing of the exam at the 3-4 level that it needs to be at, that all he needs is time. So
Okay.
he can't do it in the
And a
next
full
6
staff.
weeks. What?
And a full department.
Right. We'll get him what he needs. Like I told him, his OLA director isn't here yet, but until he does, I will move the boulders to get this done. And I think that's important to get these tests done
Well,
because
I know that we have a lot of immigrants that are native Filipino or Tagalog speakers and other languages. So, I would wholeheartedly embrace and hope that we could look at opportunities to expand that so that we do offer equity for this option for other students that happen to maybe come from different languages.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that we can have equity of access. Thanks.
I did ask a similar question, and I was given the data on the number of students and the number of languages, and be happy to share that. I mean, it's an incredible list of diversity of languages and students in these languages who are not only developing strength in their own language, but they are taking and passing AP exams. And so I can pass that over and take a look at it.
And that was from the IT department. They put that together, and Peter Bell's group. So, okay, some more next steps on strengths for A to G. So, of course, the initiative that will be kicking off on November 6th, the Unlocking the Genius, the Strong and Strength inventory piece. And I think this is really just focusing on from a strengths model, not a deficit model, and our work with Yvette Jackson will reinforce some of this. I already addressed the issue of summer school enrollments and that they need to match the need of our students, not just, well, we're offering summer school again, so let's just offer summer school, but that we're very particular about what we're offering and it matches the needs that our students have. And I did put down, like Board Member Foster said, that we need an expansion of online learning, but within supportive environments, because not everybody can just log on to Edgenuity and do the class online without support. So. Edgenuity. So Edgenuity is our online platform, and it presents itself in different models. So there's a special education lab where I believe it's called Opportunity Success, where kids that have IEPs are supported by a special education teacher while they're taking Edgenuity. And then there are the regular grad labs, and then there's just the straight-on online. So it's expanding. I think we're catching up with the progress outside of our walls. So yes, it's expanding. And then finally, I really just wanted to say in terms of monitoring, in these next 2 slides, I think over the course of the next 6 to 7 months are going to be critical. We have to watch what's happening very carefully as grading comes about. And I would say that the first grades that are going to become live are going to be those 4x4 grades that are not AB'd. So we're going to be looking at a grading period coming up very quickly, and it would be my hope that we've asked the questions of the schools. What's the status of our English grades, of our math grades in the 3rd year, of our, so that we can push in and intervene before any potential failure could occur at those grading periods, because that could become a problem if we don't intervene before they post. And then finally, and I say this on behalf of my counseling team, which is we have to come up with tools that help us do this work faster. And I think I told you last time that it took me 15 hours on a Saturday to do Patrick Henry's junior class to check their transcripts. It is just not, it's not efficient. And so we have got to get the tools that we need to be successful, and one of those is a reliable and accurate transcript check. They have to be able to go in and press a button and their transcript checks load so that they can do the work that they really need to do, which is the monitoring and the piece, instead of just writing out grades for 15 hours on one grade level every grading period. It's not efficient. This has got to be a priority. We have to have this. The other piece that we need, when we had Zangle, and I'm not saying Zangle's better than PowerSchool, but when we had Zangle, it was around long enough that we had pre-built reports. So when we needed data, when we needed things, we could push a pre-built report and get reports. Oh, how's attendance in 10th grade? Bam. How's this? And bam. We have got to have those reports that reflect our graduation requirements and that include our alternative means. Because when kids take a CCTE course and it's VAPA aligned, we have to know that. And we have to be able to run these reports so that we're not spending hours upon hours upon hours trying to do this by hand. It's archaic.
So Cheryl, I mean, what's the status of that? I mean, what is this a recommendation that will come?
It's a recommendation. I'm begging you.
What do you?
I'm recommending that these two things become a district priority.
Okay, I'll move. Well, we don't know what that means.
I need a transcript check and pre-built reports.
Recommendation coming back.
We will give a more specific recommendation of what that takes. She's making the plea right now, so you understand it in the context of this accountability report. But what it's actually going to take to do that, we'll give you a very concrete recommendation of what that is for action.
Yes. Well, the intent is clearly stated. We do want to move in this direction.
We hear the intent of the board and the passion of Cheryl Heavlin.
And I think the last time you present, I mean, I could be mistaken, I'm often mistaken, but I remember that you mentioning this the last time you reported to the board. So I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised that this time your request doesn't accompany a specific recommendation or a program or a contract or something so that we can move on it.
I think we have to make it.
But, you know, when the last time you reported to the board, I remember you specifically saying we need a better system. And now you're reporting to the board again, and again, we don't have a specific recommendation of a system to make it a reality. So I would just like to underscore that with a star and a smiley face, that we please, next time you come to the board, don't just say we need something like this, but please look and find out what is out there and propose a specific solution.
Power School can do it. We have to program it.
Okay, so then that doesn't require board action, does it? Or does it? Superintendent Martin, would you like to comment?
We'll work on that. All right, and I can be more specific about the reports that we would need to be pre-built. I'm sure Franny and the counseling team can be very specific about that.
And perhaps at our next board meeting, we can come back with this.
Sure. Okay, advanced studies. So just to begin the piece on advanced placement, these are courses that students take that have a score, if they get a score of 3 or higher on the AP exam, they earn college credit at more than 60, at colleges and universities in the United States and more than 60 other countries that grant the college credit, which is why a lot of students decide to take AP. This particular slide is from the College Board, and it shows both the SAT subject test taken by graduating seniors, the AP rates by all students, the PSAT pass rate, the PSAT juniors, and then the Ready Step, which is being replaced by the PSAT 8-9. And so I wanted to just point out that while it says that 6,190 students actually took the exams, the total amount of tests taken were actually 11,220 tests, because several of those students took multiple tests. The other piece that I wanted to point out is a question was asked to me about the PSAT 8-9, the one that is the new exam, and whether or not we were going to be implementing it. And when I looked into that, currently what is ordered for the fall right now, 600 exams at Hoover, 300 exams at Madison, 100 exams at Sarah, and 225 exams at San Diego SciTech. So although the Ready Step is, yes, which would be for these groups the 9. Yeah, which would be the 9.
Cheryl, do you have an understanding why we're seeing the drop in the SAT subject tests?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. So I think the SAT, I will just say this, I think the SAT is something that because it happens outside of our, our relationship to it is basically the issuing of some fee waivers. I think because our relationship with it is separate, we don't push in as much per se on the prep, although I will tell you I believe that the new Edgenuity that we bought has preparation for that particular exam. So I can...
Yeah, and I'm just, again, wondering if students are seeing this as a financial barrier to taking the SAT subject test, and if so.
Well, some of them take the ACT too, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Franny, I think we just signed a partnership with UCSD Extension to push in and do prep for this. So instead of us partnering or paying with a vendor to come in and do some of this on Saturdays or things outside of the day, I believe that we just entered into a partnership with UCSD. Some kids take the SAT, some don't. They take the ACT. Some kids take the ACT and the SAT. So it just really depends on what college or university that they want to go to is asking for. The person that I could ask about to dig down into that data would be our College Board rep that works with us, Lynn Dodd. So I could certainly follow up on that, but I am not aware of what that decline would have been.
Okay.
We do have fee waivers for both of those exams.
Okay. I remember, back to my 8th grade year when I sat down with my high school counselor and we planned out my 4-year plan for college readiness. And one of the pieces of that conversation when I was in 8th grade was, okay, let's schedule your SAT. Now, you're going to want to take your SAT in 2 years when you're in 10th grade, and then these are the dates they usually have it. And we actually put that on the calendar 2 years out, because I had no clue that I should take it or what to do, and I'd never asked for the fee waiver. My counselor knew there was no way my family could pay for it. And so, I was given a fee waiver without ever asking. And our counselors know who's on the free and reduced lunch rolls and who could qualify for the fee waiver without having the children who are afraid to ask, have them ask so that they can get the fee waiver. And so then maybe, those two things, to throw it out there, is that the counselors could, make it a part of the A through G conversation and with their annual check-in. And second, have the counselors give fee waivers to every kid that qualifies without having the student ask. So, President Foster, did you have something to say? You look like you wanted to chime in here.
Well, I do. It was slightly different, but when you mentioned that, that's incredibly important in terms of making sure that students have access and don't feel uncomfortable with persisting. So yeah, that I want to underscore that. What I was thinking is that the SAT exam is changing tremendously. So I guess I just wanted to just throw in there, how are we collaborating with the College Board representatives to make sure that our students are actually prepared for that test that is completely changed?
So we actually met with Lynn Dodd, the College Board rep, and we have an advanced studies resource teacher, and we sat down and mapped out what the engagement would look like at the teacher level, so pushing into our capacity builders training around the changes to the SAT, what it would look like at the counseling level, so pushing it into the work that Franny's doing with, there's a lead counselor at every school that meets with Franny once a month, so pushing in there. Pushing into how we would let parents know, so how would we go to DAC, how would we go to CAC, and then we typed all of that out, so Franny will take on the piece in making sure the counselors know. Wendy Rank Burr in Teaching and Learning will work with the Common Core resource teachers to make sure it goes out in the teacher pipeline, and then for the parent and community groups, we'll do that through whomever in our instructional cabinet is attached to that particular group. I am supposed to talk to the DAC in November about this presentation, and we'll certainly bring up SAT and the changes at that, in addition to the representative from Equal Opportunity Schools will be with me to talk about that particular initiative at DAC as well.
And then, okay, so I'm thinking about so many things at one time. And then with the fact that we're using Edgenuity, and you mentioned that we may be able to use that as a strategy for our AP as well. I mean, or for our AP and SAT prep. but I also wanted to find out, are there any gaps in how we use that for our English language learners? Because I think that I understand that there might be some weaknesses there, and so we need to compensate for that in Edgenuity. And then for the equal opportunity, and I understand that's for African American students. How is that?
The equal opportunity is for students across 17 secondary sites, and that particular group we partnered with to look at opportunity gaps. So who isn't in AP, who has the potential or the opportunity to be in AP, and they help work with us and sites to ensure that kids who are underrepresented, that there are criteria that we look at differently. And so what we've been working on with them is typically the way you get into an AP class is you have a GPA or a teacher recommendation, or you're just, dogged to get into the AP class. They're helping us look at other indicators of what else would be seen as a strength to get into an AP class. Who are those underserved students? And so what I'm hoping happens from that, I know at Sarah, one of probably the best teachers I've ever seen, Elizabeth Ward, she is just a rock star teacher. She is taking on more students in her AP language class, and she has a lot of success in those classes. And so when we toured Sarah, you saw diversity in that class, and they showed me some data from last year to this year in terms of who's in AP at Sarah, and that data is amazing. So
we're going to use those strategies and push them out too.
Yeah, and the principals and site staffs have the ability to log into a portal where it pulls up each student's profile in their school. So if they know that they're underrepresented in a certain area, let's say that they're super high in the white category, but maybe not the Hispanic student category, they can go in and query the students and look at who are the students that fall under this particular ethnicity, and where are their strengths, and do they have the other thing we have to look at, and this is part of the master schedule work coming up, is that we take the PSAT, we pay for the PSAT at certain grade levels for our kids, and it predicts a potential. It says you have the potential to pass this AP course. And so we started looking at, okay, are the kids who had potential to be in AP on the rosters? Did they get in? And the other question we started asking was, are the sites offering the courses where the highest potential was? So one that sticks out in my mind was Claremont, where there was enormous potential at Claremont for psychology and AP language. And so when you see the volume of kids in those content areas that have potential, you ask yourself, are those classes there?
Right.
And so those are the conversations.
And to make sure that students are even receiving the supports and preparing for the PSAT, because the other part of the PSAT is it is also merit-based. So there are, unless that's changed, scholarships could come from even the PSAT. And so are students fully taking advantage of that? And then the last question, and we can, and just in terms of the relationship to Edgenuity, is, credit recovery. And what are the possibilities with that? Because that's what we had before with, I can't think of the name of the program now. What was it?
Apex.
Apex. And so now that's gone away. So do we still have opportunities with Edgenuity and credit recovery in some
So the beauty of Edgenuity is under Apex, if you went the credit recovery route, if you actually took the work at your own pace route, because that system had been cleaned out of writing, you couldn't get A to G credit. That's not the case with Edgenuity.
That was the issue.
So you can either work at the pace of the virtual teacher, or you can work at your own pace. You'll look like you're behind, but you can catch up, and that's A to G. The work is A to G because you eventually get where you need to be, but you're not penalized, and the full course is not changed when you do credit recovery. Now, it's harder You know what I'm saying? So at the same time where it's like, yay, it's A to G, it's more difficult. And so I agree with you, as a principal, I would look at who are the kids in the lab?
Right.
Who are the kids? What's going on? What would be ideal?
And what are the supports?
Right, and I know at Kearney, we would never have just put the kids in the Edgenuity lab and had them click on the SAT prep.
right.
We probably would have paid a teacher on a Saturday to use it and go through it with them, or, there would have been a strategy. Each school really has a different approach to this, but I do think it's something that we need to monitor. And you can see on the next slide, some of what we just discussed is evident in this slide, where you can see that these are AP, the percentage of grades 10 through 12 students who are taking and passing at least one course. So one of the things that I think you can see in here is that in terms of subgroups, so our Asian, White, and GATE subgroups are both passing more exams and taking more exams. And so this is definitely an area that we need to look at. I will point out, though, that we can't, this concept of taking an exam, we don't require students to take the exam to earn the weighted credit for taking an AP. So we can't be surprised that maybe not all of them take the test unless they want the college credit. So that could be an anomaly in the green line, that we take the test but we don't, or we take the course but we don't have to take the test.
Once upon a time, didn't this school district pay for AP tests for our students in AP classes?
Yes.
And have there been any conversations with staff or the academic cabinet or anybody about reinstituting that idea to allow greater equity of access to those AP exams for the college credit?
No, we haven't talked about that. We currently, the free and reduced lunch students who take both our AP and our IB exams, we cover those. They pay $5.
Do they have to ask,
pay the
or
rest.
do they know?
No, we just pay for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you said they pay $5. Well, is there any way to make it 100% free for all of our children in poverty?
Sure. I think that would be possible. It's a possibility, yes.
Okay. Does that require board action for consideration? If so, I'll move that idea.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I'll second that.
Let us bring it back as a recommendation, just because I want to look at the history of where that came from. The $5, it sounds like a very easy thing to talk about that needs to be a broader
But
conversation.
$5 to some families in poverty is actually a lot
There's
of
no
money.
argument about that. We just want to put it in the context of how to,
Okay.
at some point a decision was made to be where we are now. We
Sure.
can bring back, there's a couple of things that
Yeah.
you're wanting to take action on
Yeah.
that we'll bring back in a complete
Okay,
package after
good,
tonight.
Good. And I actually remember that vote at this board
Okay.
to take away. It was before my time, but I remember sitting in the audience when the board voted based on financial situations in the greatest economic downturn that in my lifetime in California, where they made that very difficult decision to make children pay for those AP exams. And so, I think that if you're looking at the percentage of children in our AP classes taking the AP exam, I welcome the opportunity to allow all of our children in poverty to take those AP exams for free. Thanks.
Just for a point of clarification, I heard a motion and a second. Do we have a motion, or has that been withdrawn?
My motion was to direct staff to explore opportunities to increase equity, and I think Richard seconded it.
If we use the term explore, then
To direct staff to explore. Yeah.
Okay, so we can go ahead and vote on that. That passes unanimously, so we will be exploring, and you'll come back with some recommendations that we can vote on. Okay. Thank you.
And Franny just whispered in my ear that the reason that the SAT subject tests went down is because that some places aren't requiring them anymore. Some schools, some UCs aren't requiring them anymore. Okay, so so the next slide shows the percentage of grades 10 through 12 students taking or passing at least one AP course. This looks at 2014, 2015, just next to each other. So you can see that we haven't had a lot of movement or a lot of change in the number year to year. The next slide is this focused on race and ethnicity. So there's not a lot of movement in terms of the number year to year. If you look at 14-15 against or 14 against 15, some of this, I think, has to do with just that concept of access, like who comes in and who doesn't come in and which group naturally rolls in. So I think as we work on more access for all, we're going to see these numbers raise. The next group goes beyond ethnicity. So this is the data for English learner, reclassified, meal eligible, IEPs, and GATE. And clearly you can see that on this particular slide that children that are identified GATE, they certainly are taking more courses, taking more exams, and passing more exams than their peers in this particular group. I again would say that as we look at the opportunity gaps and we identify more students who have potential to go into these courses, AP courses don't all have to be in a particular subject area. There's other areas. There's also IB courses that are in the arts and other places. So I think we'll see a rise in these numbers. And the other thing I wrote here about the English learners is if they haven't passed the CELT, I don't see how, a lot of sites are probably not going, oh, here, get into the AP class. They're probably focusing on the language and literacy, trying to get them to that place.
On the bottom of, on the slide on page 31, you have English learners, reclassified EL, meal eligible with IEP and GATE. Instead of meal eligible, can't we put socioeconomically disadvantaged or poverty or something like that other than meal eligible?
So what I've been told by the IT department is that they create these slides based on the way we report. So the way we report, the categories that we report, that's how they present them and give them to me. Okay. So I could ask them certainly to try to change that for the board presentation.
Well, for transparency, I think is really important. When the public looks at that, they've not, they're not. I think the other subgroups are very clear and speak for themselves for the most part. But when you see meal eligible, then that means they live in poverty. Okay, thank you.
And just in terms of a future data point you have with IEP and GATE, I would be interested to know how many students we have that are dual IEP and GATE.
The next slide compares us to the nation and the state. So the nation is the light blue, California is the magenta color, and the purple color is San Diego Unified. And I asked why these were etched around, and it's because it's reflecting a different year and they wanted that to pop out. So you can see that in terms of taking an AP exam, San Diego Unified is we're exceeding the nation and California, although between the last 2 years the growth was small. And then passing, we're almost even with California in terms of the passing rate. But this just...
Sorry, so we don't have to compare with the
and then the next piece I'm going to highlight is the IB program, and I could say a lot about this program, but I'll say it's offered at 2 of our schools, Mission Bay and San Diego IS, and students can either pursue certificates, which are kind of what you do in AP. You take a test and you pass an exam, or I'm sorry, they can earn the diploma, which is the full IB diploma, or they can do it through examination, which is like the AP exam. So they have two routes. They can just take the classes and take the tests, or they can earn the full diploma in the 11th and 12th grade and take a specific sequence of courses. So in 2014-15, San Diego IS took 589 examinations, which was an increase from the prior year of 117 exams. And Mission Bay students took 370 exams, which was a decrease of 118, but I want to point out in that particular data point that I investigated this piece a little bit and found out that they were allowing students the option in 11th grade to take the weighted honors and U.S. history courses, and students were doing that, and that affected some of the data points for 14-15. So they have since made an adjustment to that, and it will be offered if students don't want to pursue the diploma, but it was equally offered, and so students were dipping in and out of the diploma options. And Ernie's done quite a job at Mission Bay to ensure, if you looked at his 9th and 10th grade right now, which is not reflected in what he's doing to build his IB program, he's doing some absolutely amazing things to get the kids ready so that when they enter the 11th grade, they say yes to doing IB in the diploma program.
Just curiosity, is the IB not weighted like the AP is weighted?
It is weighted. Not all of the IB courses are weighted, and there's a slide coming up that I'm going to move past quickly because I think we queried weighted courses that weren't IB in the 10th grade slides, so I want to kind of skip past them so that I don't linger too long. But yes, they are weighted, and students who take IB or AP both can earn weights, and if they pass the exams at a certain level, the difference between IB and AP is that the IB exams, there's a scale of 1 to 7, and the AP exams, the scale is I'm getting tired, 1 to 5. Okay. So on the next slide, you'll see the, so instead of looking at this through the amount of examinations that they take, we're looking at it through the amount of full diplomas that they take. And in the IB program, you can earn a full IB diploma. So what you're looking at here are the graduates from each year and how many diplomas they earned year to year. So you can see at San Diego International Studies, I am not clear what the dip was between the 13th and 14th years in San Diego IS, but she's made quite an effort at that school to really build a program and a schedule that makes sure that these kids have the opportunity to pursue the diploma. So you can see over the course of a 6-year period that she's gaining. She has a smaller amount of students too, so if you look at the 2014 data and the overall graduates, San Diego International Studies has 130 graduates, and it's pretty much a dedicated IB. Kids pretty much go to that school to take IB, and so her 2014 is about almost 20% of her class earned diplomas. Mission Bay has a much larger graduating class, and not everyone who was attending Mission Bay was in the diploma program or had any intention of being in the IB program, so those numbers are a little bit smaller for him.
But both of those schools should be congratulated.
Absolutely.
For that progress that we're seeing.
Absolutely, and both of the leaders are really invested in International Baccalaureate and are making huge master schedule moves and support moves to ensure that their programs are successful.
So at Mission Bay in 2015, 18 out of 274 students earned the IB diploma. That's 6.5% of the graduating class had the IB diploma. Did the other, over 90% of the graduating class take AP coursework, or did they do other stuff?
Well, his school, so Mission Bay, unlike IS where it's a pathway dedicated to International Baccalaureate, students at Mission Bay prior to Ernie arriving, they had multiple options. It wasn't like everybody was expected to take IB coursework. IB was an option. There were pathway options, there were IB options, you don't need to do either options. And so I think that what you're seeing, because the graduate graduates in 2014. We don't have the 2015 final counts from the state, so I can't talk about that last column in terms of comparison. But I think what you're seeing there is that he's running a diploma. I mean, if you think about these two schools, we're talking about like a pathway and a big school. So if you look at them like that, they're actually doing comparable to each other. I know that Ernie's position, and I don't want to speak for him, but I spoke to him a long time last night about all of this, is that he wants every child that arrives at Mission Bay to feel like they have an opportunity for IB. So he's built a ton of supports in the schedule. He has built advanced options that they can take to kind of test the water so that they feel confidence and they go into this program. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, IS could live inside of Mission Bay as a pathway. You know what I mean? I mean, they're almost the same size, but their philosophies are, one is a pathway and one is a comprehensive school, and I think he's making that move to full pathway, but they're not there yet.
I think the data point would be how many students that are on the IB track have completed the program.
Sure.
Right? But with the diploma, right? Because such a large percentage of students are pursuing a different pathway, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
but I think it's his intention, and again, I don't want to, state all of this for him, but I think it's his intention to treat every child that ends up at Mission Bay like a pre-IB child, and to encourage them to, if they don't go the IB route, that they're taking the advanced coursework and that they're working there. But he's got some building to do, and I think you're going to see it as his 9th grade class comes up. Some of the really great master schedule work that school has done around access, I think you're going to see it in a couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, because I'm concerned that the 10th grade wasn't an accurate measure here, I'm going to move to the 11th grade data. So this is Mission Bay, and this is whether or not kids are enrolled in at least one year-long weighted IB course. So if you look at this particular data, the one group that grew in 2015 was the Asian subgroup, and the others all took a little bit of a dip, and I'm not sure if that has to do with this phenomenon he talked about in terms of kids choosing to take the other coursework in their junior year or not. But he and I talked a lot about this, and I think we're going to start to see these numbers raise as he builds that pipeline for all kids to get into IB. So at international studies, I thought the thing that popped out to me was 25% of the English learners. So in the prior year, it showed as 0 and 25 percentage points in terms of at least being enrolled. And I know that the number says 12, but I mean, come on, when we see any number and we see that there's an effort being made around inclusion, I think that for me was something that popped out in this particular group. Yeah. And all of her groups, with one exception, which was the group other, which has our multiracial students, Pacific Islanders, that was the only group that went down. And it could be sometimes when you have small numbers in a school, 1 or 2 students can bring the overall numbers down significantly in those lines. But for the most part, it looks like there's a steady growth happening there. And then this particular slide here, you're seeing the white subgroup, the other subgroup, and the IEP subgroup going up, and then the others went down a little bit, but not much. I did think this one was interesting too, to see the gains, or at least the enrollment of the students with IEPs. That's growth. If that happened every year, we'd be at 100% if we moved up 25 points every year. So. And then I already talked a little bit about our partnership with Equal Opportunity Schools, and that the goal of it is to increase access to AP and IB coursework by supporting sites with data. And so 16 of our comprehensive schools we thought about putting in. We only actually put 15 in because Kearney has such a large number of students taking college coursework that their AP actually looks like it's going down, and I believe that it is because they're opting for the college coursework next door in lieu of taking the AP. So the 15 comprehensive sites, with the exception of Kearney, which is why it's 15, are involved in this particular effort with Equal Opportunity Schools. We also have a very strong partnership with the College Board, and one of the things we're going to be showing the principals is what I shared before, the AP potential results versus the PSAT. Did the kids get in to the courses that they had the potential to be in? And we'll align all of this with the master schedule work. So I'm going to use a different word than ensure. I'm going to say that we need to make sure that the numbers of students who obtain IB diplomas increases, and I know that both Ernie and Carmen are doing that both structurally and instructionally and culturally in their schools, so I have confidence that that will happen with our support, and we need to make sure that the numbers of students who obtain passing scores, I think this one is going to be something that we are really going to have to support the sites with, because you know, there's a conundrum between direct instruction and teaching to the test, which sometimes is what's needed on these AP exams, and the rich instruction, you know, so we're going to have to find a way to make sure that they're meeting these rigorous demands, but we're doing it in a way where we're supporting them to get either the test prep or the extra time that they need to actually pass these tests. The phenomenon is AP Spanish, though. A lot of kids take that test and they don't even take the class, and they pass it. So I have some data about which classes are actually the high pass classes versus the ones that aren't. So those will be interesting conversations at the sites about, well, why aren't we using these right now till we build the stamina for these other ones that we aren't passing. So.
What does it look like in terms of our English language learners and our IEP students being able to have access to these to the AP and IB courses, particularly under the equal opportunity schools contract? And then I guess a personal concern would just be the low pass rate for African American students and Latino students, like 6% and 11% respectively. I mean, how are we going to leverage that to address that gap?
So Equal Opportunity Schools supports us with the opportunity gaps and the access, the identification of the students and getting them enrolled. The preparing of students to be prepared to take the tests or to be ready for that will have to be will have to be part of our instructional supports that we provide the sites. Not only in are we assessing and monitoring in our classrooms to make sure that kids are actually meeting those rigorous expectations, and are they reteaching if they aren't. Right. I mean, that's the thing about AP, and when I taught it, is that you have this straight line that you need to get to, and it really is, you know, I got to cover this, I got to cover this, I got to cover this, I got to cover this. So you have to find a way to make sure that while you're covering all this material, you're putting the supports in place so that they can make it. I will tell you that in the current structure of how we schedule English learners, especially English learners that come in at ESL 1, 2, and 3, 4, the possibility at this point of being in AP, we have a lot of work to do, because some of them have only just taken English 1, 2 their junior or senior year. Right. So I can't tell you how many schedules I've seen where our English learners are taking English 3, 4, American Lit, and senior English all their senior year.
And getting no credit.
No, they'll get credit,
well, but you're talking, well,
there's no weighted credit, right? Right.
They have to be 5, 6.
Right, but I mean, I think for a child that never had access to any English until, like any non-ESL English until their junior year or possibly their senior year, getting through just our regular English courses and our regular graduation courses is going to be difficult, and that's the bandage work. But as we look systemically and we start to think differently about how we schedule and instruct, and I think those opportunities you're talking about will widen, because the kids will make it to reclassification, which in all this data, that's the good news, is that if we can just get them to reclassification, then they outperform everybody.
Right.
So I think the big piece here is how do we get them to reclassification
earlier?
Right. How do we do that? Because when they make it there, they surpass everyone.
Right.
So
and they have
that's
more
the
opportunities in high school.
Yeah.
Because they have the access. Right.
Yes.
Right. Of course, it's life.
And in terms of the IEPs, so Sonia Picos and I were looking at the transcripts of students who are non-diploma bound in our senior year or fifth year in our senior year, and I don't want to put myself in the shoes of all the adults that have supported these kids through the years, because I know everyone does the absolute best that they can, but I cannot personally understand how you can take 20 elective credits in our school over 4 years and never take some of our core coursework. I feel like I get why you want to give all the electives, because it's part of what makes learning fun. But I feel like if you just gave some type of support for the core early on and they gain some momentum, they could have those electives later. So some of the things that we saw, we got to work on that. And a lot of it is expectation. It's just expectation. Okay, good news around our community college partnerships. So we have several amazing partnerships, and right now we have 1,630 students taking college courses while still in high school. And this does not include the enrollment in the community college articulated courses for CCTE. So this is outside of all the courses that they earn college credit in CCTE. So we're really excited about this number and think this is exciting. So we also feel like what's really awesome this year is that we're offering college courses to students who will attend 4-year, 2-year, and other post-secondary options like apprenticeship. In the past, we've relied solely on the ACP program, with the exception of Kearney that put almost all the kids in the community college program. We relied on the ACP, the Accelerated College Program, which were really kids who were going to 4-year college, but they were taking community college courses, and then they weren't going to the community college. They were going to 4-year college, and we've had that program for over 40 years. So what's super exciting about this year is that we have Mesa College. So Mesa College gave us a new line of courses this year. So the Accelerated College Program has been that program where we've offered Poli-Sci and Math 150 and Math 254 and and a lot of the kids that ended up in those courses were going to 4-year college. Mesa stepped in and said, let's build a line called the Legacy Program, and let's put 2 courses back to back in both math and English. So let's use Math 96 and Math 119, and then let's use English 47A and English 101. So the courses on the lead end of the semester clear the AccuPlacer. Right? So now we have no community college remediation once that happens. No community college remediation, no college And then in the second half of the year, they take a core math and English course that gets them dual transfer credit into 4-year, 2-year, all of it. It is a great deal, and Tim McGrath at Mesa is just such a friend of the district. I just can't say enough about that vice president of Mesa. Just a friend to us.
Where are we doing that? Have we already started offering that to students?
Yep. And he picked up, the Mesa City is going to start their version of this in the spring with us. Okay. But Mesa picked up the city. Okay. So right now at San Diego High, San Diego High has a number of college courses going on their campus, and Mesa picked them up for City, and then City will pick them up in the spring.
You just started that this year with Math 96? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Well, in that pattern.
So I think that means that, yeah. My question. So we are having some of the college classes on the high school campus with the college instructors coming to
all of these are on the high school campus. Cool. They're taking so the fast track program, kids are going to college. The UCSD program, they're coming to the site. The Legacy program, they're coming to the site and teaching. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought you were logging in. Okay.
I have a few questions around that, but I'll defer and ask them later offline.
Okay. And so,
just future data point?
Yes.
A future data point, can we get the demographic breakdown for those students that are taking college classes with IEP and the English language learners that are taking those courses? And then just for public consumption, I have to ask these questions because we went through a lot and we have some positive results. So is it true that students have to be legal residents to take college classes while still in high school?
No, they just have to intend to graduate with us and stay in California.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Because of what is that, the public needs to know, right? That's it.
And so this slide shows you where Mesa's pushing in. The Met, they're helping with Claremont. They're doing Kearney. They're helping with the Legacy program. Then we have Miramar, and I'll tell you, Miramar has come in like nobody's business. So they opened classes at Sarah. They opened an incredible business line at Scripps Ranch. They offered both a fast track and courses on the campus at Mira Mesa, and at University City they gave them a sociology class. So
we don't have 5 students taking classes now.
Well, they are going over to, yeah, we kept the 5-student program, and we're hoping that those 5 students knock Miramar off their socks, and that number will have a 0 after it. Yes.
Can we get class sizes that small for the SD, USD teachers, please? And I'm sure we would see phenomenal pass rates if we had smaller class sizes in all of our high schools.
I don't know what Miramar is doing with the 5, but yes,
Those 5 kids are merged with the other students. They're not in class sizes.
But they also gave Mira Mesa other courses, and kids on the campus are taking those courses. It's a start. It's a big start. And then City is supporting Lincoln STEAM, and in the spring they'll take over the Hoover, the San Diego High School, and then Crawford will start its very first college program in the spring with City. And then the early middle college is there too. So. And then this is very
Cheryl,
exciting.
It would be helpful on, as President Foster, future data points if we looked at the AccuPlacer rates, over time and what our trends are there.
Into the community college, yeah. I have that. Yes,
right.
Yeah.
That's great. Terrific.
That data actually is what led to the Legacy program, because there was so much data showing that there was a need for remediation, and then some of these kids ended up being remediated, and then they didn't persist in college, and so that's where the Legacy program came in to fix that.
Just a quick question. With the, let me see, are you, okay, no, go ahead, and then I'll ask my question. Go ahead, sorry.
So the other partnership that just started this year, and boy, Etta Beta at UCSD Extension is also one of those amazing friends of San Diego Unified. In addition to offering, he piloted this project at, I believe it was one of the private schools, and then he came and he asked me, can we put it on some of the public school sites? And I'm like, yeah. And so the school sites chose these courses. They had 5 courses to choose from. And from what I'm hearing, things are going well. Ed also is responsible for making sure that we have the SAT prep partnership. And the other piece that he will be supporting us with, as soon as I make sure that I present it to Cindy and she likes it, is badging. So UCSD Extension is really just sort of stepped in and become an incredible partner for us. And
so my question is that this, I have to ask because I just have to, the UCSD Extension partnership with the sociology and the OBIO, is there a way to expand that to our 5 cluster areas, high schools of need, Hoover, Lincoln, San Diego High, Crawford?
So I think if this partnership is successful, which I assume that it will be, one of the things that Ed was talking about is locating professors in strategic places so that we could get more kids from the city to places, so getting closer but taking on more kids from all over who might want to do it. So yes, we are talking about how to expand this and how to do it in a way with a lot of support, because you know, those particular courses are UCSD undergraduate courses, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And just so you know, those sites weren't selected because, let's go back to those sites. I went into the principal's informal and I said, who wants to do this? And 7 hands went up. So I looked at the 7 hands and said, who is going to build in the structures necessary for this program to work? And so there were actually 4 schools that kind of stayed in the mix, or 5, and then 1 pulled out and said, I'm a new principal, I can't support, I don't know how to support this in my first year. And then one of the schools took on more community college courses and didn't feel like they could do it. So, and that was San Diego High. San Diego High was going to take one of these, but they had taken on so many community college courses that they had their hands full. So I do think there's a desire to push out, but it was really important to me to find out where the champions were, who would take this on and really put the supports in, so that I could make sure that I could say to Ed, look how successful this was, so that he would give us more. So that leads us to, this is me asking for something. I don't know how to phrase this, but I'm going to ask for it. So one question that I have, because I think that it's unfortunate that students have to choose between our AP and our IB programs and some of our community college. So if I want to be the valedictorian, I'm not going to take any of these college courses because they're not weighted. They're not going to get my GPA up, right?
College courses, absolutely.
Okay, so I want to say, well, here, I did a little. They jumped
all over it before you even finished your sentence.
I did a little research, though. Okay, we don't want to just wait. We don't just want to blanket wait. What we want to do is this. I did a little research. So we don't want the students to get a transcript that isn't telling the full-on truth. So the way we do this is there are certain courses that kids take that are actually transferable courses. Like we do college courses that aren't exactly UC and CSU. They might be transferable to community college. So what I'm asking is I would like to be allowed to investigate and put forward the idea of making the transferable coursework, the ones that are on this, there's this list you get that's very long, and I would like to take these courses and match them to our courses and weight them.
Yeah, that doesn't require board action.
Okay.
I mean, you could put that together and come to the board with the right specific recommendation.
Fabulous.
You know.
And the way tonight's is an information item, we didn't put it in for action, and the way we structured it last time, each of the monthly updates has what's the current situation. As soon as you look at data, there's a compelling need. The next steps that are in here will be put together an entire package for action. We weren't bringing it for action. We wanted to have dialogue, but you're jumping on and saying, just do it.
Yeah, we talked about this before. And so, you know, we need to act. And so he moved, I seconded it, there's a motion on the floor.
So we talked about before, can you clarify for everyone what your understanding?
The motion is with identified community college and college courses that the superintendent would deem appropriate. We will allow for weighted grades in the same way that we allow for weighted grades in AP and IB courses.
Second. And can I slide in there before Al gets up here? Can I slide in there that if there are CCTE courses that are dual credit?
Okay. Yes. I mean, what you're getting is the sense of the board that we absolutely support this and want to see it, and so when you're ready to come back with the specific recommendations, we'll be ready.
Absolutely.
And
I'm just going to throw in there, since I know Al's coming forward and you're going to talk about CCTE, we already know what the data suggests in terms of how our students, all, not some, all of our students perform in those courses. So whenever we have opportunities to expand that across all courses, we really wanted to look for that as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, Al.
I don't know if we need to vote on that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All vote. I mean, those interested in vote. Okay.
Does Al want to come up?
Yeah. Okay, that passes unanimously.
And it's not in any way to cut you off, Al. I just want to point out we're into our third hour on this one board item, so we really need to, I think, move this.
There's still 20 more pages.
Yeah.
I think I'm your guy, though. We'll get through this pretty quick.
Right.
So maybe we'll adjourn the meeting right after this presentation. I don't know. But
And next year, this will be a very good board workshop instead of a board item, because there's so much depth and detail. That's a clear focus and major effort of the district, of a major portion of our LCAP, so it'd probably be better to do this as a workshop next year.
Well, a lot of this stuff could also be received, because I read over this before, and it's just an update of other material that we've been briefed on. And so to the extent that a lot of the material that's been in this presentation is all fantastic, important, and good, a lot of it is just updating this on data points from before. So I think maybe we just hone in on some specific update points, one, and then two, some specific concrete recommendations for board action. And then I think that presentation can be less than 4 or 5 hours. Just throw that out there.
Well, my part's quick. As you know, I'm Al Love and with the CCTE, and currently we have 13 of the 15 state industry sectors. We lost one at Scripps Ranch, fashion and interior design. That's not a high priority sector, so we've moved in a direction to make sure that we're putting all of our efforts in the high priority sectors. The community college articulated coursework right now, we're somewhere between 32 and 40 courses that if you earn a B or better, you can skip the introductory course at the community college level. And I thought I was going to have to come up here and fight for weighted consideration, but it's a moot point, so we can move forward through that. The UC A to G coursework, we now are up to 65 courses that are satisfying UC A to G. So they have that approval, so we're moving right through there. The next 4 slides are probably a moot point too.
That way.
That way? Okay.
Being that I am a professor with continuing education, I would like to keep that job. I have to ask, where is adult education in this, or are you at least considering some of the partnerships with that, with our CTE and all that?
We're beginning a discussion. We are spending more of our time with the community college right now with articulation and with aligning our pathways, so there's work to be done there.
Great.
When you look at the next slide, I think the backdrop was that last year there may have been a concern that the A to G requirements, graduation requirements, could impact enrollment in CCTE courses. So to make the long story short, there's been no significant change. So the numbers, when you look at the far left column, you'll see that 37% of the students didn't take a CCTE course and 38% in this year didn't enroll. But when you look all the way up and down vertically, you find that the numbers are consistently the same. So next slide. I'll move you through that. Since there's no significant difference, I won't bore you with a lot of narrative. Number of students that pass, the pass rate, percentage-wise, is significantly the same. The number of students that took 1, 2, 3, or 4 or more CTE courses is the same. So we haven't seen an impact in the concern that may have been presented regarding A to G. When you look at subgroups, I'll hold.
It appears as a reduction over 2014, 2015 in the numbers of students participating. Or am I reading it correctly?
There's not a significant difference.
It's year to year.
It's year to year.
The columns next to each other.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the total in 14.
Total number, yeah. So for example, the sophomore year on the 2014-2015, we've got a 7,300 versus 69. On the next one over, juniors, it's 69 versus 68. Seniors again, it's 66 versus 63. So that's
the trend that
that's
you're
the
seeing.
trend.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering what those numbers, what does that indicate?
Well, I would probably say that one of the answers to that is when you look at the freshman year, you can take one course. There's really one course in your 6-period day. After PE as a requirement, students usually take foreign language or they take a CCTE course. And depending on if you're in academy school or if you're at a career pathway school, the academy school, we know that we're going to see you in the CCTE department. At a larger school where they're not academy driven, there's a chance that we won't see you, and we want to increase that number. And I think weighted consideration will help us, especially at the freshman level. So we'll get those numbers back because the students it's a tougher conversation for the counselor, especially in that freshman counseling session, to convince parents that it's ideal for a student who's taking, for instance, the information communication and technology pathway, a very technical pathway, to take a foundations in IT course that's not A to G, because A to G is kind of in their head, but that course is articulated at the community college level, so the value of it is very high. So I think that by having that weight, it will now add a little bit more to the counselor's arsenal to not have to debate the value of that at the freshman level. And we have this conversation in counseling offices throughout the city. So,
Well, and in that sophomore year on the 6-period system, sometimes we see a skip. So they take the entry-level course for the freshman year, then they don't take a course till junior, senior because they can't fit it in their schedule their sophomore year.
Isn't that also attributable to the 4-year plan and how that's mapped out?
I could see a count.
Because the skipping wouldn't necessarily occur if you actually mapped out the 4-year plan in the end of the 8th grade.
We see a lot of drop typically in the 10th grade, but I've been in 6 districts, and that's the case at 10th grade year. There's always a dip at that particular year. But with a weighted course, maybe not. The last slide, I believe, for me is the cumulative CCTE semester courses taken in high school by subgroups. And again, you see 14, 15, the numbers are somewhat similar, no statistical difference. So the concern about A to G, if there was one, I wasn't here at that part of the first semester last year, it's something that reverberates throughout the county, and I really appreciate the fact that in San Diego Unified we have so many A to G courses that are CCTE, and thus it's taken the fear out of other districts to pursue U to G approval, not with the fear that it's going to impact CCTE courses. So the data has been really illuminating for me. And the last one is the cumulative CCTE semester courses passed, and we see again that the pass rates are somewhat similar year to year.
So before he starts with next steps, because I can see what happens as soon as we start talking next steps, you all want to take action, and I reflect back on each one of these reports last year. We did have next steps, not as a form of formal recommendation the day we brought it forward. The next step, but I think we're ready to go at a faster rate of change. When we had next steps last year, then we were able to bring it back into a package. So know that the next steps are things that we intend to do, or that takes further conversation, and to be able to hear what you're thinking about them, you're ready to go, and I can see that. But that's been the structure of these reports each month, is to say what's our current data telling us, and then we have recommendations, because the data creates a sense of urgency, and then we have solutions for that urgency, and so we can contemplate the next steps that bring together full action.
Well, the second next step is continue the revision and submission process. That doesn't require board action at all. That's a function of the staff in the district identifying CCTE credits that would qualify for A through G requirement or meet the requirements, and then submit it. And so that's something that's ongoing, and I think that's really good that it's being highlighted here, because we want to continue. We don't want to just say, okay, we're done. We've got all the CCTE classes that we can to be qualified for A through G requirements. The first one, we've already made a motion and passed. The third one is to continue to encourage the alignment of academic core technical work. That's not board action, that's staff action. And then the last one, no wait, that's just DNF marks in SDSU. Is that the next slide, page 52?
That's the next topic.
Okay, so on page 52, preventing first-time failure. We've kind of talked about that quite a bit earlier with after-school support intervention, Saturday school and support and intervention, things like that. Okay.
Yes.
So Kevin, thank you for helping us to transition. I just want to thank you for your presentation, Mr. Love, and then also I see what the challenge would be with adult education, being that we are making sure that our courses are A through G aligned. So I know that that would probably take some time. That said, just as an example, when we look at the Cisco course that is offered with adult ed, and looking at the income one could make once they completed that, you know, $75,000, $80,000 or whatever, that's kind of some motivation to figure out how we can make that work. But I do, from the presentation, see the clear challenges, and that would take some time.
And then I can see where my question had to do with mainly the decrease in total enrollment. These but it appears that the percentage of students taking the programs are the same. The numbers are the same. Correct. The percentage are the same. Kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next section is...
Cheryl, in an interest of time, I think if there's a summary of this...
I can definitely do that.
Okay.
So the interesting piece on all of these slides is that when you look at the rates of DNFs year after year after year after year, you don't see much change until you get to 9th and 10th grade, and then you see this enormous change, especially in Fs. And so I think that what I would say is that we really need to examine both how we intervene and how we grade, and maybe competency-based grading, because when you're seeing year after year after year the same amount of kids failing and getting Ds and Fs, it's in my perspective, you're basically seeing the same behavior over and over and over a year, both on the student and on the grading end. So what I see across these slides is that we clearly need to intervene in the 9th and 10th grade, there's no doubt, and we're doing that at the high priority schools with the counselors that were assigned to those schools. So the head counselors that work in the secondary office have helped them create monitoring tools, and they are going to be both monitoring the 9th and 10th grade first time success, but also monitoring the kids that are on the other end that are considered at risk and may not make it to graduation without support. So the intervention counselors are doing that. The only other piece that I would point out is that math has a lot of Ds and Fs. The core content areas overall have a lot of Ds and Fs, but math significantly has a lot of Ds and Fs. And then the piece inside of the subgroups, just the disparity in some of this, especially at the middle school level between males and females, and between English learners and redesignated students in terms of Ds and Fs, was something that popped out to me.
And then at the high school levels, African American and Latinos students, that it's tragic. I mean, just in terms of the data points there, which would, have me ask, do the principals know specifically how to examine that data? And to use some targeted interventions. Are we training, on that? Because we have this greater focus on data. That would be real important. And then in addition to counselors and transcript audits and the master schedules, what are we doing for our students, and particularly Black and Brown at Lincoln, Crawford, Morris, and Hoover? That are at the top of the list for Ds and Fs, because this is persisting problem, and we have to address it. We have to have some targeted instruction to accelerate the learning, and we have to use the data as a flashlight and change this, because this has been going on for years.
Lincoln, Morris, Crawford, Hoover, and San Diego High are the 5 priority clusters who have received the additional counselors, and they're the ones who we were working with to help monitor and try to ensure first-time success. I think it'll take more than just the intervention counselors. It'll take a change in the way in which the school, each site is approaching grading, each site is approaching first-time Tier 1 instruction.
Which is why you've clearly spelled out here the next steps. When you look at this DNF report and you look at the data and you see where the disparities lie and what the issues are, the next steps are working with the intervention counselors we've already put in place at the 5 priority schools, examining the grading practices, looking at the culture at the school, how to revise what's currently happening, and then ensure the interventions address those next steps to address that. That's the only way to do it. It's systemic work.
Right, and I'm not trying to be critical, but I mean, this is hard work, this is heart work, right? And these next steps that we're looking at are the same next steps that we saw last time. They haven't
so the
changed.
ethnic studies piece might be something different. I went to the last slide that these are pretty different, what I put in here, which are that we need to ensure that strategies for student engagement are considered. So it's not just about going to class, but it's being engaged in class. So does that mean ethnic studies? Does that mean Project Lead the Way? Does that mean a linked learning approach? Does that mean project-based learning? I don't know. But tradition or...
I think it involves all of that, and it also involves culturally relevant teaching strategies as well, in that type of training, and that we're embracing and supporting that throughout the district as well, and that principals are leading that, and I don't know what that actually looks like right now, but I mean, those are some of the proven strategies that work.
I think the other piece too is that when we were going into some of the classrooms, when we were doing classroom visits, I don't go to meetings and bring a notepad. I bring my computer or my laptop and I take notes and I send things, and yet we say to kids, take out your pen and paper. So I think we need to look at engagement, not only about how we're delivering content, but the medium with which we're asking kids to interact, because they are digital natives. We might be digital immigrants, but they're digital natives, and how do we engage them around the tools that they use every day to engage them in the process? And then finally, just looking at these extended day options and online options and innovation centers and anything we can do to intervene, because each site is so different. Everything about the sites are so different.
Right.
Well, when I look at some of these DNF rates, Lincoln High School, 33% DNF, Claremont, 22%, Crawford, 21%, Hoover, 27%, Morse, 26%, San Diego, 20%. Those are just amazing numbers. And when you take a look at 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, the only way that, in my opinion, that you can go from 20 to 30% Fs in the 9th grade to 8% Fs in the 12th grade is if you have a massive exodus of your DNF kids. By the time they get to the 12th grade, they're not in the pool anymore. They're not in the school anymore. They've gone somewhere else. They've either gone to a different school, like a charter school, or they've gone. They've dropped out. They're not at that school anymore. So that's the first thing. The second thing, being a middle school teacher, I know that if you wait until the 9th or 10th grade for intervention, it's too late. The middle grades are the most important grades for intervention. When math teachers get 7th grade students that are performing math at a 2nd grade level, that's when you need the after-school support, Saturday school support, intervention, summer workshops, spring break intervention workshops or intercession workshops to get those children from the 2nd grade math level up to 5th or 6th grade. And then in the 8th grade, the same thing, so that they're ready to hit the ground running in 9th grade. And I'm very concerned that, that if we wait, you had just mentioned we need more intervention in 9th and 10th grade, absolutely. But we have got to develop a rigorous, intensive support plan for the middle schools that feed into these high schools where it's too late. So I just put that out there, and again, the superintendent and this cabinet and the instructional cabinet have visited other schools in our county that do have robust, vigorous support programs in the middle grades.
Right, and I want to support Trustee Weiser's comment on the importance of the middle school. If you look at charts 58 and 59, which compares the DNFs as you go 6, 7, and 8, to the DNFs going 9, 10, and 11, the consistent pattern is that they increase grades 6, 7, and 8, and then we have this decreasing. And whatever the reason of the decrease, maybe as was mentioned, I'd like to focus on what is the reason for the increase, and whether we have consistency throughout our schools. Does a D mean the same in every class at every school? And what is that standard? And can we do early intervention and get started at the 6th grade? If we don't create that stair step up, then we don't have the need for the stair step down. So we can intervene quicker and make a difference to drop that escalation increase, so we can.
I think that the only other thing I'd add to what President Foster talked about, I recognize that there's some ethnic studies, some student engagement strategies here. We are seeing stagnation, though, in these numbers now over the course of the last few years, and so I think we've got confidence that that we've identified what the strategies are, but the hope is that when we look at these numbers next year, we're going to start to see some progress. Yeah,
absolutely, and I think enough can't be said about engagement and about high expectations and what that looks like. And I know at the last LAP conference, I believe there was this, there was a presenter and there was this book about the pedagogy of confidence and really being able to reach students. And I think that when you start to see a dip in student performance or an increase in D's and F, it's because we've lost that student. And the instruction hasn't been meaningful to them in some way. And the conversation that she was having is that it's not the external factors of just a student being poverty and lack of some resources outside the school day, but being able to engage them and captivate them and make it relevant, meaningful, and something that they need to use and want to use. We need to get to that and make sure that it translates into the outcomes that we want. And what I'm pleased about is I think I heard someone say that presenter is going to come to San Diego Unified and present, and maybe it starts there, but by any means necessary, these numbers have to change. Yes.
Cheryl referred to Yvette Jackson and her work, The Pedagogy of Confidence, and she will be the speaker at our next principals conference because we understand the brain-based research behind that and what happens to engage students in the way that you learned at the LAB conference, but bringing her here as one of our speakers at our next principals conference is our next step.
And the last thing that I'll say, and I hope I'm not lying when I say this, because on this piece, is that we need to also find a way to integrate. This is just my opinion, that to integrate the instructors, our teachers, even with the experience that our principals have, because we can't just depend on our instructional leader, being the principal, to be able to push all of this out to teachers with the desired impact. Just human nature and just what we have, things get lost in translation there. So we want to get, if we're talking about the Tier 1 instruction, we have to get that experience directly to that Tier 1 instruction to have the desired impact that we say we want. So that's just
And that's the overall strategy of the work that we do in the district around building capacity, that you start with principals, but you don't stop with the principals. As the instructional leader, you begin the work there, and the expansion of the National Equity Project to do direct work with teachers, as we began, as you know, with the board and the leaders, but then we take that out as a strategic plan so that it does get to our teachers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up real quick, I know last year we had talked about having like the I-High and I-Middle at every campus, so that if I go to Patrick Henry High School and I didn't pass a class the first time because there's no after-school support or Saturday school intervention support or opportunity to retake tests that I got an F on and raise my grade. So let's say I do not pass my class the first time. Then maybe the next year, my sophomore year, I could go to my I-High office at my school and retake that course online.
Or maybe even the next semester.
Right, or the next semester for AB. And so where are we in terms of that goal, getting I-High and I-Middle offices or branches at every middle and every high school in the district?
That's one of our concepts to action that we were talking about in the innovation centers, and as we expand that, there's the details around putting that in place. It's not turning a switch on, it's work. We have to work in collaboration with multiple stakeholders to do that.
I believe Julie Martell has identified Morris as a pilot site for that, so that we can pilot it and see how it goes in terms of implementation.
So that won't be in place for the class of 2016. That won't be in class across the district for the class of 2017?
To have proper engagement and collaboration as we do it. We don't just turn switches on. That there's
sure, I understand. But we talked about this last year, and so I'm just hoping that
it's underway.
Is the pilot in right now? And so are we looking at then trying to get some information about the pilot from first semester and then maybe expand it to a couple more clusters in the second semester?
Plans are underway.
And then next year maybe going district-wide, perhaps?
Plans are underway on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
President Foster?
Second.
Excuse me, you have a speaker on this item.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Matt. Come on down. We have Matt Yayagan. I'm so sorry. That was a long presentation, too.
I am so glad I stayed. I was having an internal battle with myself up there whether I should stay for my public comment or if I should go home and eat. And then I started thinking, when do you all eat when these board meetings run so long? Like, when do you all eat? So I commend you all for having the energy and the passion and the commitment to improving the lives of students in this school district and in San Diego. Thank you very much. Superintendent Martin, Board President Foster, members of the board, Cheryl, wherever you went. Great job, Cheryl. My name is Matt Yagiaga, I'm with Alliance San Diego. We are a community empowerment organization that works to improve the lives of all San Diegans and students so they can achieve their full potential in the 21st century. And I want to start by saying that let's just call A through G, the graduation requirement, what it is. It is the tide that lifts all boats. And if you look at the data that was presented at the beginning of Cheryl's presentation, we are seeing double-digit gains in our subgroups. We are seeing a tremendous amount of just gains in student achievement across the board. When Alliance San Diego and other community organizations first started to push the school district in aligning the graduation requirements with UC A to G, the UC A to G completion rate was 4 out of 10 students. Now, when we looked at the data that Cheryl presented, 8 out of 10 students are near or on track to being A through G ready upon completion of graduation, with potential of that to going up to 9 of 10 if we match the graduation rate of last year. And a lot of that has to do with the work that you all are doing here in this district, with the great work that Cheryl and her team are doing, with the leadership of Superintendent Martin and our board members. I commend you all for really doing this rolling up your sleeves and really doing the hard work. Auditing transcripts for 15 hours on a Saturday and moving boulders and really doing all of these different things to ensure that our students are graduating career and college ready. So thank you all very much. And I think we should take this day to really clap our hands, pat ourselves on the back, and you all should be happy about the work that has been done so far. But there's still more work to be done, and I know that you all. I wish this was a full room for this conversation, because I know there are jokes about this being such a 3 hours on this agenda item, but really this is the realest conversation about student achievement that I've heard coming out of this district in the past 5 years, for as long as I've been a student, an advocate for K-12 education in San Diego Unified School District. And I wish that the public was able to hear this conversation and the dialogue between you all around D's and F's, around UC A to G, around AP and IB programs, because this is the work that needs to be done to move the school district forward. So thank you very much for your work. Thank you for recognizing and acknowledging the report that Alliance San Diego did with survey groups across San Diego Unified School District. You're not just acknowledging the work of this organization, but really the opinions and the skills and the knowledge of the community members that really responded to it. So thank you very much, and I want to end by challenging you all to return to that report and look at the recommendations that we had provided around moving us from 80% of students being near or on track around A through G to 90%. There are 5 recommendations at the end, which include lower class sizes, which include more investments in counseling staff, which include other things like alternative ways for students to complete A through G, like an expansion of loads, summer school, and other things. So thank you all very much.
Yes, and thank you for your leadership as well, and Alliance San Diego and Andrea and the whole team. So.
Well, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so.
I will move item E3.
Second.
Okay. So we're going to open the public hearing and close the public hearing? No.
Any speakers?
No speakers. So you moved and seconded. Let's please vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. And close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you for that. Okay. We do have a speaker? Okay. No, the citizen on item F1. Okay. So being that there are no speakers, we've had a motion and a second. Can we please vote? Perfect. And we have H1, which is an information item only, and okay.
Second.
All right. Please vote. Okay. And then?
I'll move item I, superintendent consent agenda.
Okay. Second? Okay. Oh, we have a speaker? Okay. We have a speaker, Joellen Archer, on I-26.
That's okay.
No.
My union person was, I don't like your, I don't usually look at the answers, but the union person helped me with some self-care welfare to get me to understand.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So it's been first and seconded. Can we please vote? All right. There seems to be no public, non-agenda public. There is? Okay. Okay. We have Jimmy Tran. Are you still here? All right. Come on down. You probably brought your homework with you, right? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for waiting patiently to the end. We're looking forward to your comments. Go ahead. And you can state your name for us, and you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Mm-hmm. My name is Jimmy. I hope you guys are having a good day. So this is a non-agenda item.
Yes.
So I want to ask you guys about a project I'm having for after school. It's about having thinking of a way to prevent trash in general, and I want to focus on plastic in our schools. So my school couldn't give me like any information on the cost of alternatives, or like why it should not be why aren't schools using it. So that's why I came to the board meeting, because I feel like you guys would know it. So I'm just gonna ask you like for help of your knowledge of like alternatives. Like what I want to do is biodegradable stuff. So I want to know if you have any history of using biodegradable packaging for lunch and breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because like schools haven't been using them, and I want to know why. Like, is there anything that's preventing schools from not using them, or the district?
Okay. I just was thinking there's so much to say in terms of our new lunch trays, to how we recycle now, and there's just so much that we could say. Did you
I just think, Jimmy, we've got a great subject matter expert for you right back. It's Drew
Mr. Drew Rowlands right there.
Yeah, that I think are ready to help you.
Yeah.
You said you're ready, huh?
Well, if I just want to chime in, typically non-agenda public comment is your opportunity to speak for 3 minutes and say whatever is on your mind, and we listen politely. Typically,
we make exceptions for students, though.
Exactly. That's why. That's
the only exception.
I've got bullet point 2.
Right. Only for students.
Typically, proper decorum, if you go speak at the city council or other governing boards, is non-agenda public comment is your opportunity to speak for 2 or 3 minutes and share your concerns or what's on your mind. And then the elected officials will listen politely and take notes and maybe follow up and respond depending upon the concern. My second point is that you're absolutely right. We've got to do a better job of addressing the plastic island in the Pacific Ocean and the plastic islands around the world that are killing our oceans. And in this school district, we've made some effort and headway. We banned all of our styrofoam lunch trays, which is about 13 million a year, and now they've been replaced with much greener, environmentally friendly lunch trays. There's a variety of other things that we've done through our environmental committees and advisory committees. One of them I think that's really groundbreaking is we actually, when we signed a new contract with our waste disposal company, we put in that contract specific metrics to gradually expand the percent of recycled material that we as a school district produce. And then then we have a variety of other people back there on staff that are, like Trustee Barrera said, subject matter experts that can speak to a lot of our specific recycling programs and initiatives in our schools.
Okay.
Does that help a little bit?
All right, so because for part of my presentation, one of my coaches and advisors said it would be effective if I actually tried to change my school from using biodegradable trays. So I was thinking if I would come here to change that.
Right. Well, you go to Preuss, right? I can tell by your T-shirt, your polo shirt. So, the first thing that I'd encourage you to do, because I've worked with other students in Tierrasana and other parts of the city that have come forward with specific proposals, is the first thing I'd encourage you to do is do some research and find out what's going on and what are some other school districts doing, so to get some specific ideas. Second, organize and recruit other people to create a critical mass, and then go ahead and lobby those decision makers at your school, because you have a separate school board for your school, to try to affect change there.
Okay, because I am part of a group. I'm just the only one here.
Good. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you very, very much. It was a long meeting, huh? Mm-hmm. Good job. And we are adjourned.